Enjoy all your favorite sports like never before at BetMGM. Sign up using code Hawkeye and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet. When you register with BetMGM, you'll get instant access to a variety of parlay selection features, live betting options, player props, and the best daily promotions in the business. And with BetMGM at your fingertips, every play and every game matters more than ever. Place your money line, prop, and parlay bets with the king of sportsbooks today. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly and offer resources to help you make appropriate choices. BetMGM.com for T's and C's. 21 plus to wager. Iowa only. New customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets. Bonus bets expire 7 days from issuance. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-BETS-OFF.
What's so special about Hero Bread's soft, fluffy, and delicious breads, buns, and tortillas? These ultra-low net-carb baked goods contain zero sugar, fewer calories, and more protein than the leading brands, and are high in fiber to support gut health. Shop now at Hero.co.
Tony Dunn, ain't nothing to it but to do it, brother. Let's roll.
In a world where Carolina Panthers fans have an insatiable thirst for Panthers news and opinions, only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast.
The Carolina Panthers have the longest odds to win the 2024-2025 Super Bowl. Are you surprised? Matt Corral is still playing football. Deshaun Foster is a head coach of UCLA, and our very own homegrown North Carolinian Julius Peppers is a first ballot Hall of Famer. We've got that plus the latest free agent pending news, potentially trades that could be available. We're going to be working the front office tonight, guys. You're listening to the longest running Panthers podcast. That's the C3 Panthers Podcast. We may not be football experts, but we are expert football fans. And each Tuesday night at 9 p.m., we rock and chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. I do it with my homeboy, my wheelman, Cody Lack.
Tony Dunn, listen, man, no matter what time of year it is, there's nowhere I'd rather be on a Tuesday night than sitting here with my boys talking Panther football. We have a big show tonight. We're going to preview some of the biggest free agent names on the Panthers roster, some of the bigger wide receiver free agent names. We're going to talk about, did Ice Spice and Taylor Swift use satanic witchcraft to sway the results of the Super Bowl? Tony Dunn, we're going to do it all here tonight with the best damn Panther fans in all of YouTube. You know him, I love him. It's our boy Panther Pickle. What's up? Our guy Drew, MLB824, Muscles Marinara Paisan. What's up, brother? Panther Gal 73, Roosevelt Mongo, Tim Estes, and your bastard son, White Chocolate Espresso. Tony Dunn, ain't nothing to it but to do it, brother. Let's roll.
The number's 252-228-5098. That's 252-228-5098. You can be a part of the C3 Panthers podcast. Smash the thumbs up button. Subscribe to the show. We're on all the major podcast outlets, on Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever you call it. We'd love for you to share the podcast. It's the off season, CK, and things may be quiet on the social, I guess in the socials, in the social universe, but they're never going to be quiet on Tuesday night on YouTube on the C3 Panthers Podcast. How you doing? The voice that makes them moist.
Man, I'm doing very good. Right now, my main thing is just being healthy, and that also means being able to take a step away for a week and just enjoy life for a little bit, not having to worry about the Panthers or football or what have you. And I'm just here to, have a good time with you fellas, man. I've enjoyed, being a part of this, and I will continue to be. So nobody be worried about that. I'm not going to have an exodus like Greg at this point. So,
sabbatical.
Yes. Sabbatical. Just a 1 week little vacation I was heading down to Myrtle Beach doing some golfing. So
Oh,
I'm glad
nice.
to be back with you guys.
Did you not even have to bring the family with you?
No, it was time away, man. It was
It was mental health CK.
Lucky dog.
yeah, dude.
Man.
Got to step away. Got to, and listen. If you're married, I make this a statement to everybody. Even if it's just 4 or 5 days, getting away. Not to say you need to escape your family, but it makes you appreciate your family a lot more. So if you don't get an opportunity to do that, I know it causes stress on your significant other, but you'll come back with a deeper appreciation for your family. So,
well, that's all we're going to give the listeners is 3 or 4 days off from us, because we're here on Tuesday nights. We're here on Friday free for all. And whenever there's news breaking, we're here for that as well. And on top of that, we've got a lot of, this is the business. This is the time of season that's busy for bad teams, and the Carolina Panthers were bad. So free agency is going to mean a lot to the Carolina Panthers. The draft is going to mean a lot to the Carolina Panthers, and Panther fans are going to want to know all the information around that scenario or surrounding those topics, and we're going to have it for you. So you guys stick with us in the off season. We're locking arms. The C3 Army is live or is strong, guys. Man, these guys are rocking and rolling in the spaces. Pickle, D's, JJ, Anthony, C3 Anthony. So, man, we're so glad to have you guys with us. Cody, tonight's show is the Panthers' biggest offseason priorities. We'll be talking in a little while about Mike Kay's article on the Charlotte Observer. We encourage you to subscribe to those outlets like the Charlotte Observer as well as the Athletic in the offseason. These guys need to get paid. Hey, and look, cool thing about the Charlotte Observer is that if you subscribe during the season and then you call up and you say, I think I want to cancel, they'll take your subscription and knock it down to $3. That's what they did for me. And then so that's what I do. I'm going to do every season. So go out there, help these guys. Cody, the Panthers' biggest offseason priorities. The priorities are not winning the Super Bowl. It does not seem like it, because the Carolina Panthers have the longest odds, but we just got to watch the Kansas City Chiefs win their 3rd Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid.
It's the Chiefs world, and we just live in it.
That is the truth. Scott Fowler reminded us one day ago, yesterday, or I guess this would have been Sunday. I'm struck by 3 facts. Christian McCaffrey was once a Panthers running back. Steve Wilks was once a Panthers head coach. And Harrison Butker was once a Panthers kicker.
Dude, Harrison Butker hurts my feelings every time I see him.
That one makes me the maddest on the whole list. Is that weird?
Yeah, no, dude. If people remember, and I know you do, Tony, because you were on the same page. It was he was very highly touted out of Georgia Tech. We got him in. And it was between Harrison Butker and Graham Gano. And we chose to go with the old foot. We went with Graham Gano. Harrison Butker goes to the Chiefs. And now, he's probably just the best kicker in the league. Him and Justin Tucker, no big deal.
What is one man's trash is another man's treasure. It turns out the Panthers were the trash. The Kansas City Chiefs were the treasure. Harrison Butker, we may be sad that he left. He is happy that he is gone. Graham Gano did have a good season or two for the Panthers following that, but they were a little hesitant. They were nervous to go with the rookie kicker. Harrison Butker with a big leg has dealt with some injuries throughout his time. Like he's kind of been nicked up the last couple of years, but available when needed and automatic, it seems, when necessary. So Christian McCaffrey looked good in that Super Bowl game as well. I wonder, did he had, man, what did he have? Over 150 yards total in that game, touchdown, Super Bowl. What'd you think about it?
Dude, I love the Super Bowl this year. At first, it started out as that defensive matchup that we were kind of all expecting. I mean, the Chiefs did not get to the game based off of their offense this year. That was a defensive-led football team. They were running the football effectively, which is something that they didn't do earlier in the year. And the fact that they have won 3 Super Bowls where they have been down by 10 points at some time during the game, dude, that's just a testament to how good that team is. And And Tony, I said earlier in the year, you know, when you have guys like Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Travis Kelce, these guys have been there before, man. They know how to win when the pressure is at the highest. You know, right now we're living in the middle of that Chiefs dynasty, man. And I don't know if, you know, if they're going to be able to go for 3. Apparently they're all coming back for 3 next year. But before I move on, I'll say that the 49ers, again, called a very terrible game, in my opinion. I felt like there were parts in that third half or in the second half where they should have leaned on McCaffrey and running the football far more than they did. But Shanahan, again, kind of felt comfortable putting the game in Brock Purdy's hands, who, credit to Brock, had a pretty good game as far as I'm concerned.
I saw one person tweet out that Kyle Shanahan is committed to showing that Brock Purdy is not a game manager, just making him the centerpiece. But it wasn't. Look, is that they're both teams? You said this is the Chiefs' defense was what kept them in that game, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and every moment where the 49ers really felt like they could step on the throat of the Chiefs, is it Chris Jones?
Yes.
You know, is that he just wreaked havoc. It was just like when you need, he made the giant play. Their defense was good all season, but while they weren't an offensive team, and that is not the typical put up 40, get, you know, whatever they're going to do, they still got Patrick Mahomes, he's unshakable. He is, and really they won that game like they win every freaking big game. They just get the ball last and they go down and score. You know, if it's a 10-point game and there are more than 3 minutes in that game, you're not ahead enough.
No, how do you ever feel comfortable being down like that with Patrick Mahomes on the other side? It's just, it's unreal, man.
I did think and I don't know if it was because of last week
turnovers too. Lots of turnovers in that game.
Yeah, it was. Is that a lot of people had butterfingers? You know, I mean, a lot of fumbles and things like that.
CMC fumbled.
Yeah, and there was the Pacheco fumble. There's a couple of other ones throughout the game. What was it? Oh, I don't know if it was because of our discussion last week about how, you know, we were talking about Brock Purdy, and I don't know, somehow we became Brock Purdy defenders last week.
Because I was like, dude, to me remember I made my comparison between him
and you took
and
a lot
Bryce,
of shit,
and I said that's a good comparison. I still maintain that it is.
I think what that discussion last week when I got all into it was that it just felt like there's too much slander on Brock Purdy, given the fact of how well he has played as a rookie and throughout, right? And so I don't look. Is Brock Purdy is not the reason they lost that game. You know,
no, not at all.
He didn't let them march down the field and tie it up. He didn't let them score touchdown in overtime. But is that defense? I mean, look, this was a good matchup. I thought Brock Purdy played admirably in this game, and they go to overtime. What'd you think about Kelce and the push busting up on Andy Reid?
Dude, I kind of felt that it was honestly a little blown out of proportion. Like, dude, it's in the middle of the game. He's a baller. He wants the ball. I get it. And, and it's your coach. Yeah, you probably shouldn't do that. But whatever, man. Like, these two dudes, all of these dudes have won championships together. They've made millions of dollars together. I'm positive they have a rapport with one another. That goes a little bit beyond football at this point. So I don't know, man. To me, I didn't make that much of a big deal out of it.
Did you see Jason Kelce just obliterated after the game, wearing like a Mexican wrestling mask, just stumbling everywhere? He was so drunk. He has just been partying since he retired. Travis Kelce didn't have a lot of yards in the beginning of that, or really any impact in the first half. I was able to hit my 4 prize picks. I won $100 on prize picks. Use the promo code C3. whenever even throughout the offseason, if they continue to see people sign up with the C3 code, despite us not advertising, and we'll drop that name a little bit or that code a little bit throughout the season, then we can bring them back as a sponsor next year. And it was a fun time this year hanging out doing that. Then the game goes to overtime, and I guess right away it seemed that the rules of overtime confused every single person in the world, which I was a little surprised by, because didn't we have big rule changes in overtime just 2 years? Like, we talked about were the problems with the overtime rules, because Josh Allen didn't get.
Yeah. So this goes back to when the Kansas City Chiefs, it's in the playoffs. They go to overtime.
Was it Cincy or was it Buffalo?
No, it was Buffalo, because the Buffalo Bills, they pushed it to overtime, and then they didn't get a chance to touch the ball. Patrick Mahomes got the ball. They went right downfield. They scored a touchdown. So they end up changing the overtime rules. Well, one of the dumbest things to come out of this Super Bowl, and people are blaming this on Kyle Shanahan for the lack of preparedness, we'll say, that the San Francisco 49ers team, they weren't even aware of the overtime rules. They were still under the idea that you get one possession, and if you score, you win. You juxtapose that with Andy Reid, who apparently they were going over different scenarios for overtime. They knew the overtime rules, how it was set up, and they hadn't even prepared for it. So I don't know. I don't know why the overtime rules themselves are being blown out of proportion, but I think it's definitely fair at this point to blame Shanahan. I mean, if your team is not prepared for the way the game is being played under the current rules, that's your fault as the head coach.
Well, the
and
other
a
part
veteran
too,
head coach.
The other part to add to that is the rule, for instance, the idea of marching down and only having one possession, kicking a field goal and actually winning the game. That's been a rule that's been gone for, I would say, almost 10 years, if not longer, right? The sudden death aspect of it only applied to the touchdown rule. And so that's been that, even with that excuse, that's what happened on Sunday isn't abnormal. Like, even if the new rules hadn't changed, they still would have lost with the same rules that we've had for the past decade. So there's that excuse is interesting to me, and I think it's more of an indictment on Kyle Shanahan as a coach at this point in time, that is that confusing. And let's be real about it. I don't think
he was confused about it. I think there were a couple of players that came out and thought that if they would have scored a touchdown, the game would have been over. Right. And they weren't aware that the other team is going to get a shot at it. The other thing is really, and what the real conversation throughout the week is, did the San Francisco 49ers make a mistake in overtime by taking the ball first? And
no, I think they made a mistake by stopping running the ball when they got towards the end zone. They just decided to throw the ball like 3 times instead of trying to let CMC, who had just had massive runs in that same drive, actually push them closer and try to get a touchdown. I don't think that they should have gone for the field goal. The Kansas City Chiefs couldn't be stopped there against their defense for that last couple of drives.
Right. I mean, it's like going for it on 4th and 9, but also the Tony Romo, Cody, pointed out that when you defer in overtime, what you get then is you kind of get a lay of the land of what you got to do.
Yeah.
Right, better. And you also get to treat every set of downs as 4-down territory, because you're going to have to either get down there and kick a field goal to tie it. You're going to have to get down there, score a touchdown to tie it. And there's never the idea, imagine if you get the ball first and they stop you, you punt, right? Like you don't ever have punting is never an option if the other team scores, right? So a lot of people have made a lot of problems or had concerns about Kyle Shanahan deferring this. Now, there is another side to this, and what I heard Jonathan Jones, former Charlotte Observer reporter, now with CBS. He said, there's no consensus across the league. While everybody has condemned Kyle Shanahan over the analytics of this, Kyle Shanahan's idea is that if they're able to tie it up, that you get the ball first when it goes to sudden death. But I thought our good friend Ricky Raines of the podcast of the Kitty Lit podcast, he brought this up. If the San Francisco 49ers go down there, score a touchdown on that first drive, and the Chiefs go down there and score a touchdown, they get the option to go for 2 if they wanted to. And so, like, that third possession likely could never come. I don't know if you'd have the guts to do that. But the 49ers didn't have the guts to go for it on 4th and 9 or 4th and 4, I think, on the 9 or something. It was down there towards the end. So look, it's just I told you guys I wasn't going to pick against damn Patrick Mahomes again. Shame on, fool me once, shame on me. A fool man can't get fooled again, as George Bush says. Yeah. Right. And look, I said, man, Buffalo at home, Buffalo's hot towards the end of the season. It's going to be finally the year that they can get over the Chiefs mountain. Didn't happen. Then they go to Baltimore, the best team in the league throughout the season.
Yeah.
Can't be. I said, I am not picking against them. Patrick Mahomes with the ball in his hand with an opportunity to win at the end of any game is money.
He's one of the best ever. I mean, they're already having conversations about him as an all-time sports figure, even like outside of football, comparing him next to Michael Jordan and just the all-time greats of athletics. When you look at how much he's won, how early he's won, it's just,
and how long he can continue to win.
Yeah.
That and the other piece to this is one of the things I've always been critical of and I've been questioning is he's always had Tyreek Hill. He's always had Travis Kelce. He's always had, every year that he's won, it seems like there's something that's just not working well for their team and they still find a way. And what I mean by that is, for instance, he didn't have a great offensive line early on in his career, right? He had one of the worst. He was getting sacked a tremendous amount. He ended up losing a Super Bowl because of that bad offensive line. And then the past 2 Super Bowls he's won without Tyreek Hill. This year he's won with a group of wide receivers that are largely considered one of the worst in the NFL, behind the Panthers probably, just based on how the regular season had gone. The only thing that he's been able to maintain consistently is Andy Reid and Travis Kelce.
And himself.
It's
him. It's him.
Gotta be.
It's Andy Reid and it's him. And more so than Kelce. I don't want to hear about all these weapons. And this is where I got... Look, is with all of those weapons against that the San Francisco 49ers had, that Chiefs defense gave them problem. Look, the San Francisco 49ers defense played well in that beginning of that game, right? They were giving the Chiefs a lot of fits. But Patrick Mahomes, that's the key right there. And this is where everybody goes, oh, look at San Francisco. You put Bryce Young on San Francisco, they're going to be in the Super Bowl. You put this and that. Really, this is why all teams want the generational talent at quarterback, is because
they can take over. Yeah. It's not hyperbole when they say that they can take over the game and put it on their shoulders and carry their team to victory. And by the way, let's be real. I think Cam Newton has been nothing but vindicated in his takes about quarterbacks and what is and isn't a game changer / game manager quarterback. I think that's the truth, and that's not taking a shot at Brock Purdy.
Exactly.
But you just said it like on those final drives for the Chiefs, they were letting Pat run the ball. They were literally putting the ball in the hand of Patrick Mahomes, in the hand of the guy that you pay all that money.
They were so worried about getting beat. And
yeah.
There was openness. I think too I think the problem with all of the game manager, this and that, game changer talk. And I think we ran into this with the Bryce Young discussion, and that's why so many fans have been kind of down on Bryce Young as a draft pick, is I think we too loosely throw around the terms generational talent.
Yeah.
These ideas, like when we say something's revolutionary, like revolutionizing the game, this and that, we use those terms too loosely. And I think that's largely what Cam is really talking about when it comes to game changer is you think a lot of these guys, these guys are all NFL players. They're all good, but there's only a few that are the.
Yeah, and also like being real, a lot of it has to do with physical traits. So, Tony, you're talking about pumping the brakes on generational talent. Well, it's important to remember that before we get into this draft, because they're going to throw that around about Caleb Williams. They're already doing it. They're going to do it about Marvin Harrison Jr., the wide receiver coming out. Drake May is 6'4", 230 with a cannon for an arm. Like, you're going to hear this now. And the narrative would have been that this quarterback class had more of those types of players that have those game-changing types of traits and talents.
Yeah, it's I guess the difference between those talented, elite talented players and generational talents or game changers is when talent meets success.
Yeah.
Is that everybody in the league is talented. There's people that are super, super talented. It's clear that they're super talented, but then there are people that their talent is married to success, and that's when the generational talents come. Because, look at Tom Brady, not the elite traits. It's not like anything, but like here, he is a game changer. He is a generational talent because his greatness, his talent dovetailed with success. So we got some super chats. Anthony mentioned that he got one. Yep. Anthony, give him his kudos.
Yes,
here.
sir. Anthony with the 199 says Mahomes is on the best start of a 6-year career. So this is
like
in all of
the league longer. Can you believe?
I know.
That?
Yeah, it does feel like that. Yeah. But for all time, we're talking about not just football, but basketball, baseball. The dude's doing some incredible things, man.
He's on a crazy pace.
Yeah. And how about this, man? Our boys, the brand ambassador, D's Ill Skills, member for 13 months as the longest running Panthers podcast. C3 in the building. And then Panther Pickle with 17 months says, let's kick ass and keep pounding. Appreciate y'all, boys.
All right, let's jump into or past the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, the rest is just sort of news that are kind of.
This is unsurprising, right?
Where Panthers, we are relative to it.
Yeah, Panthers have the worst odds to reach the Super Bowl. Not surprising. I think $1,000 would pay out $250,000. I think this is. I always have liked when we had Cam Newton and all those guys, and you heard. You saw Luke Cam, the 4th and 1 podcast, man. He's really pushing hard these days. Yeah. Went to Super Bowl. Like, I think this was a good move for Cam to go on Radio Row and do all of that and now he's leveraging his football relationships to build his podcast brand, and it's working. I used to always put, like, anytime. Now they're about to legalize sports gambling in North Carolina, March 11th, so I won't have to either illegally bet this bet, or what I would always do is if somebody was going to Vegas, I would give them $10 and ask them to buy me a ticket, to win the Super Bowl. Imagine putting $1,000 on the Panthers. You got to have some loot to put it down. Because that is, it's one thing to throw around.
Just not afraid to blow $1,000.
I know, because wow, that's a high odds. Oh, you ain't. That's just $1,000 down the drain, man. Right now.
I would be all right with maybe throwing 100 down one and just be able to get to 25 grand to win off of that. Like, that would be worthy of maybe a little bit of
maybe what we should do is create a Panthers pool where we all throw in $1.
Ooh, that would
all
be
the C3 super fans throw in $1. We throw in $1 each when they legalize sports gambling every year, and then we just split it evenly with all the people. It's like, when people group buy tickets,
like lottery tickets and stuff. Yeah.
All right. What's up? What else? Oh, this is Deshaun Foster. Is that what we got next? Or
no, before we do that, we have to talk about Julius Peppers being the first ever Panther, the first player that was drafted a Panther. to end up in the Hall of Fame, man. Shout out to Julius Peppers, repping it big time for Charlotte, for North Carolina, and South Carolina. Gentlemen, what y'all think about Pep making the Hall of Fame? First ballot, too.
Deserved. I mean,
deserved. Yeah, exactly.
I think it's a no-brainer, to be honest. You know, I mean, what, 4th on all-time in sacks, long career, multiple AP, what is it? AP Pro Bowl? What is it? AP All-Team, All-Pro. Yeah, multiple. I mean, all Pro Bowl almost every year. Found success on 3 different teams, with the Carolina Panthers, with the Chicago Bears, and with the Green Bay Packers. Was Julius on the Green Bay team that won the Super Bowl?
No, he's not he's never won a Super Bowl.
Okay. Never won a Super Bowl.
We talked about, I guess you guys talked about this, but first is Julius Peppers is my favorite football player of all time. I think the Carolina Panthers put out a video when he was like on the day that they were going to make the announcement that he was going to make the Pro Bowl, and put like a little clips from his career. And it was like basically kind of like a TikTok or a short or something like that. It was a very, minute and a half video or something. And they didn't put up my favorite play in his entire career, where he had a 100-yard interception return that was not for a touchdown. Can you believe that? 100-yard return where he didn't get a touchdown, caught it in the end zone, got all the way down to the 1 or whatever. It's, I think, the second that's tied. There's one other player that's done it that has not had a touchdown, that's had a 100-yard return. Julius Peppers did this in Denver when they're at Mile High Stadium. And, I mean, you could see by yard 95, this dude was huffing. He was, I mean, this is a big man moving fast. And then I don't know, somebody, some cornerback or somebody ran him down eventually. But my favorite part of this play is he goes and sits on the sidelines. I mean, right immediately, or sits on the bench, and he takes that oxygen mask and he sucks that oxygen. I thought the oxygen tank was going to crumple like a beer can. You're just going to suck all the oxygen out of it at once. Luke Kuechly talked about Julius Peppers with, I think it was with Cam Newton, or no, it was on Good Morning Football.
Yeah.
And he talked about how his favorite thing about Julius Peppers when he got to play with him is that iconic black visor they had. And when he gets a sack, that big Cheshire cat grin that he gets with that big toothy smile. And he says, just awesome. Feels good. Julius Peppers is the reason, Cody, Julius Peppers is to me what Cam Newton is to you.
Yeah. He is to you what Cam Newton is to me.
He made me an NFL fan.
Yeah.
He made me a Panther fan.
Yeah.
And ultimately, look at this. Now we're doing this podcast down the road, or years down the road. He went to played high school in Bailey, North Carolina, which is about 30 minutes outside of my town. I know a guy that played against him. The guy that played against him, my boy Flap, holds the punt return record for that. I don't know, for the county or the state or something like this. And he played against Pep when Pep was a freshman. And he was like, dude, this man was a monster. Right? Like, I mean, you already knew from a freshman in high school, this guy was no joke.
By the time he was playing ball, he had a man body.
Yeah. I mean, he's made it to the Final Four. He's made it to a Super Bowl. And he's made it to the Hall of Fame. I saw somebody, and it was in the free-for-all chat. I guess you guys were talking about Pep on the free-for-all, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody left a comment on the YouTube channel, and I had to respond to it because I had to go, and cape up for my boy. He said, problem with Pep was he took plays off.
Yeah,
and
you always hear this narrative about Pep and him taking plays off.
There's a couple of things. I think there's some reasons that narrative exists. Right. First is the Carolina Panthers offered him like a record-breaking contract, and he declined it and went to Chicago. Like, he just wanted to get out of Carolina. He wanted to get out of North Carolina, I think. And he also saw kind of the decline of the Carolina Panthers. The writing was on the wall in some cases, because just 2 years later, I think the whole team's falling apart or whatever, maybe a little bit. So I think there's some bitterness from Panther fans. Like he turned us down for the prom. Like that's, I think, one part of the narrative. The other part, I think, that comes about when you see, and I don't want to say to someone, you don't know ball. I hate that line. Right. But is that when you watch these plays, I think sometimes you forget, or that maybe we don't forget. It's not forget. Maybe we fail to recognize the nuances of the game where, like, every down, each down is not an individual down. It's a down in a larger battle. Right. So, like, what you do is when you're going against a good offensive tackle, you're setting them up for 2 or 3 plays later at times. Right. You have to save a little gas and a little energy at times for more important moments, I think. And I've heard that this is some of the criticism for Myles Garrett, is that he almost goes too hard in the first half and then runs out of gas in the second half.
Kind of blows his wad.
Yeah. And I think this is my last thing is this is it's hard to believe that a guy who's 4th in all-time sacks took a lot of plays off.
Well, but it's also like, at what point are they just toying with you? It's like an alligator playing with their food. You know what I mean? like okay, I'm gonna give you a minute, to let you kind of think that you're hanging with me. Then I'm just gonna shit all over you. Yeah, it's a chess match.
It's like I'm doing this so I can set this up later in the game. I mean, maybe is that if I feel like it's like one of those things where you talk about if you pull out that old Cam Newton highlight from the Super Bowl and him not jumping on the football, and you're like, this guy didn't care enough. He didn't put his body on the line enough. And if you just watch, like, that's the antithesis of Cam Newton. He always put his body on the line. I mean, it's like he's the one quarterback that would chase down people and tackle them, after an interception.
Tony, I know that you said before we started the show that as long as you don't argue, we should be done with this pretty quickly. Steve Smith should have been the first one from the Carolina Panthers to get into the Hall of Fame. I don't care.
Yeah.
Get back at me. Steve Smith should have been the one. If you're a Panthers fan, you've got to look at it from the perspective of Steve Smith stayed here until he was forced out. He was forced out. Steve Smith gave his blood, sweat, and tears, regardless of whether we are a good team or a bad team. He stayed here through quarterbacks, through every change you could possibly, through changes of coaches, everything you could ask for. If you're a Panthers fan, Steve Smith is the true Hall of Famer that should have been in first before Pep was. Pep deserves it, but Steve Smith should have been in there before him.
Well, I think that is a argument for many people to say that he's the greatest Panther of all time, right? Is Steve Smith, right? Because Julius Pepper's greatness was not only in Carolina. A lot of his success came after Carolina. So I think that's a fair argument to say I think that Julius Peppers is had a better overall career than Steve Smith. And it's hard to compare them of different position groups, right? But I mean, I think like if you just put them in the rankings of those people and throughout, I mean, I think he is a no-brainer. Steve Smith was a bubble guy, but I think they both should have gone in. And my argument for this is Andre Johnson went in this year, and Andre Johnson and Steve Smith have almost identical stat lines when you look at them. And Steve Smith has one thing that none of those guys have, and that's a triple crown, right? So but the problem is they only let guys.
The video that Steve put out recently of him running routes.
Oh, I know. He could feel like we could use them on the team.
He could be the number one wide receiver on the Panthers right now, dude. He has elite get off even still. It's insane.
Yeah, and the problem with Steve Smith, for him, that's going to be going down is that they only bring in so many people from one position group a year, right? So it wasn't only that Steve Smith's career. It's not that it was just like they're going to let certain guys in, and we don't have but so many seats for wide receivers this year. I wanted to bring this up, see if I can find the whole list. Dang. Speaking of Hall of Fame, a lot of people we want to talk about should Cam Newton be in the Hall of Fame, right? And Panther fans think that he should be. Some people think he's a bubble guy. I think that Cam Newton, if he had.
Enjoy all your favorite sports like never before at BetMGM. Sign up using code Hawkeye and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet. When you register with BetMGM, you'll get instant access to a variety of parlay selection features, live betting options, player props, and the best daily promotions in the business. And with BetMGM at your fingertips, every play and every game matters more than ever. Place your money line, prop, and parlay bets with the king of sportsbooks today. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly and offer resources to help you make appropriate choices. BetMGM.com for T's and C's. 21 plus to wager. Iowa only. New customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets. Bonus bets expire 7 days from issuance. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-BETS-OFF.
At Athletic Brewing Co., we know the big game's no time for a bad call, on or off the field. This year, you and your friends can make the best call of the night by bringing Athletic Brews to the party. Whether they're your pick for the night or the perfect fourth quarter audible, Athletic Brewing Co.'s great tasting, non-alcoholic brews can put a win without a hangover in the palm of everyone's hands. Head to athleticbrewing.com to find a store near you and stock up for Sunday.
A second run on his career. If he just had like one little bit more run where he made some playoffs, I think it would have been more eligible. But think of this is wild, is I have a belief that Cam Newton is the greatest short yardage threat in the history of football,
regardless of position.
Yeah. Right? Like, I mean, I think he's like the greatest goal line threat ever. But how about
him
this?
and Marshawn Lynch, maybe Derrick Henry? But he's for sure. It's like
the bus is one. Listen to this. Cam Newton has more rushing touchdowns than Clinton Portis, Earl Campbell, Ezekiel Elliott, LaShawn McCoy, Steven Jackson, Maurice Jones-Drew, Eddie George, Todd Gurley, Fred Taylor, Ricky Williams, Stephen Davis, O.J. Simpson, Herschel Walker. Right? I mean, good God, he had 75 rushing touchdowns, Cam Newton. Fucking amazing. Just go. Me and my buddy, we were reminiscing over this past weekend. It was like been out partying, and he was like, "Let's just watch Cam Newton highlights." And we watched this like 22-minute YouTube video of just Cam reaching over. He could score in any way. He could run it. He could jump over you. He could run around you. It was awesome.
And like also when you see him in person, you feel like, oh, that's a defensive end. Like that's not a quarterback. That's that's a monster right there. And that is Cam Newton. It's not a surprise why Cam Newton thinks that he's a different breed of human than a Brock Purdy.
He's a laboratory creation.
And then
he's a laboratory creation.
Yeah, he's like a created character in Madden.
Can I ask you? I mean, and we can move on from this after this, but
no, we can't.
Is White Chocolate brought up a good point? Is Luke going to be a first ballot? I have a hard time thinking this.
Oh, I think he is a first ballot Hall of Famer. But dude, the list is wild. I had a list that I used on the free for all. Let me see if I can bring it back up, because the list. There's some names on there, man. Eli Manning, Marshawn Lynch, Terrell Suggs, Adam Vinatieri. Like they've got some names, man.
What do you mean? Oh, you mean up next year?
Yeah,
that are going to be up for. Okay, here's some.
They're eligible for the Hall of Fame this year. This would be their first ballot. All of these guys, Luke would be included. But that also means he has
Eli Manning, Luke Kuechly, Adam Vinatieri, Terrell Suggs, Marshall Yonda, Marshawn Lynch, Earl Thomas, Joe Staley, Demarius Thomas, Aqib Talib, fuck off, Vernon Davis, Darren Sproles, Cameron Wake, and there's another player on here that.
Steve Smith. It could be Steve Smith could get in there. Earl Thomas is getting in. Marshawn's getting in. Terrell Suggs is getting in.
But we're going on the free for all. How many contemporary players and how many old school players?
They always at least get a couple, 2 or 3 of the old school.
Yeah.
They don't usually do like they're not going to have multiple first ballot Hall of Famers typically. You might see one, you might get lucky to see 2, but I don't think that we're seeing. I think this might be the year you got the most possible, and I just don't think Luke makes the cut. Adam,
is there any way that Steve Smith and Luke Kuechly make it into the Hall of Fame in the same year?
I hate to say it, but it's just not. I don't think it's going to happen.
Was Patrick Willis? He was one of the guys that got in this year, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe so.
But he wasn't a first ballot either. He'd been retired. He retired. Didn't he retire before Luke by like a few years?
Yeah, I think he's been retired a little bit longer than Luke was. Yeah, I'm almost certain.
I want to see here if he got in. Let's compare him to Luke real quick.
No, there's no comparison. Like I think that Luke is a better. I mean that's an argument. I guess somebody.
Well, just statistically is what I'm saying is. Look, I mean, I guess if anything, the only knock is they're just going to say, was the career long enough? That's what it is. I think even with, it's not what they did. And I think that he was an incredible player, Luke Kuechly. So I do think he deserves to get in. The question just is his career going to be, was it going to be long enough to put up the overall stats that people want to see?
That's the argument you have to have. You have to discuss whether or not the Luke may be a better player than Willis was.
Well, their stat. Oh, here we'll just look at their stats real quick. Luke played in 118 games. Patrick Willis played 112. So if he can get in, if Patrick Willis can get in with 112, then Luke should be able to get in. Luke had 18 interceptions. Patrick Willis had 8. Let's see. Sacks. Willis had 20 sacks. Kuechly had 12.
Kevin said 6-time first-team All-Pro versus a 2-time second-team All-Pro.
7-time Pro Bowl. These statistics, AP Defensive Rookie of the Year, Luke's getting in. If Patrick Willis can get in, Luke gets in. That's what I said.
You better, man. Dude, I'll be pissed.
Yeah, but you also got to keep in mind the. I think Pep. Yeah, it's a popularity contest, and we got to keep in mind Pep went to the Green Bay Packers and the Bears, so he had a little bit of a leg up. I mean, I would be interested for you to compare. Was Andre Johnson was the wide receiver that got in this year?
Yeah,
him to Steve Smith, and then we can make this discussion of whether or not they're going to look at stats or they're looking at.
Yeah, let's do it. Cause I've been on that. Hold on. You guys talk real quick. I'll pull it up.
Yeah. I mean,
I think we're just unfortunately a franchise that isn't going to draw a tremendous amount of, applause from the football world because we're so new. And even when we were good, it wasn't like we were a fan base that was to be reckoned with.
Right. But I do believe, though, that most people would tell you that the play of Luke Kuechly defined inside linebacker play for this past decade. Yeah. I mean, literally, him and Bobby Wagner are the names that are going to come to mind. But how many people and how many linebackers in this game today will tell you that they based and modeled their game off of what Luke Kuechly was so special at doing? And they did, and trying to be like him as a linebacker. I think that's enough to overcome our perceived lack of, prestige as a franchise.
All right, here are the numbers for Steve Smith to Andre Johnson. Games, 193 games for Andre Johnson, 219 for Steve Smith. Two more seasons for Steve Smith. Receptions, Andre Johnson had 1,062. Steve Smith had 1,031. Receiving yards, Steve Smith as Andre Johnson had 1,400. 14,185. Steve Smith had 14,731. So more yards per reception, 14.3 versus Andre Johnson's 13.4. Receiving touchdowns, he's got 11 more receiving touchdowns than Andre Johnson. He's got more rushing attempts. He's got 387 rushing yards versus Andre Johnson's 54. And he also played as a punt returner or kick returner. When it comes to Pro Bowls, Andre Johnson had 7. Steve Smith had 5. Andre Johnson will have 4 All-Pros. Steve Smith had 3. But Steve Smith also had the Triple Crown. So I don't want to knock on Andre Johnson. I just think, hey, if those stats get you into the Hall, then I think Steve Smith has comparable stats to Andre Johnson with the added cherry of the Triple Crown.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that if Steve Smith were another, I mean, he's got the benefit of being on the Ravens, I guess you could look at it from that, but he wasn't really a game wrecker on the Ravens when he went there. He ended up tearing his Achilles or whatnot. So I really think that he's been, unfortunately, because he's so synonymous with the Carolina Panthers and he continues to be synonymous with the Carolina Panthers. I think he's going to be he'll probably be in next year. If I'm starting to kind of question that. I think he might be in next year.
All right. Also talking about Panther legends, or to me, a legend. And that is a guy that I've actually had the chance to interview. That's Deshaun Foster. If you're having a bad day and you want to pick me up, if you feel the world's against you, go watch Deshaun Foster power past the entire Philadelphia Eagles team in the 2004 NFC Championship game, 2003-2004 season. Deshaun Foster, really of a good running back for the Carolina Panthers. Had some fumbling issues at times. It felt like at least that was the stigma surrounding him. But 2 iconic memories for me in that one postseason. You have that run against the Philadelphia Eagles. There's so many standouts. That was such a great postseason. You got Steve Smith with the overtime touchdown, the walk-off touchdown against the Rams. Then you've got Deshaun Foster with this crazy run against the Eagles. Deshaun Foster with one of the most epic touchdown runs in the NFL in the Super Bowl history, where he stretches out. I mean, when he jumps into the end zone, like, and just flies in, like, just this great. The pictures of it are phenomenal. Moose had the longest touchdown in Super Bowl history. You had our very own Dan Morgan with the most tackles in Super Bowl history, or in a Super Bowl game. So Deshaun Foster, who had just taken a job last week with the Las Vegas Raiders as their running backs coach, was announced as the UCLA head coach. And I want to see, did I send it to you guys in the chat? Oh, watch this. I hope this doesn't get us in trouble. Shouldn't. This is, oh, well, ESPN TikTok get us?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it will.
And it's just the UCLA players reacting to the.
I don't know. I have to see it.
Yeah, here, we're just gonna do it. Watch this. This is the players who are reacting to the announcement of Deshaun Foster.
We want somebody that wants to be a Bruin. Well, we didn't get somebody that wants to be a Bruin. We got a Bruin. Come on out, coach. Your new head coach.
Look at them players. They hype. Look at that. They are hype. Congratulations, Deshaun Foster, for your new coaching hire at UCLA. Hopefully he can get them to promise. He played there, coached there for the last 8 years. Only had 1 year off in there. Great football player for the Carolina Panthers. And this is fun. This is a fun time for Carolina Panther fans now. Think about this. Is Pep getting into the Hall of Fame? We have a history now. Our team, like what you guys, what the fear that CK was talking about is like, oh, I fear Luke Kuechly's not again because he's a Panther. Fear Steve Smith, not, like this. Those days are soon going to be behind us. we're starting to have a history. Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's not even starting to. We do have a history. You know, it's not the longest one, but the Panthers do have a history when you factor in Julius Peppers, Steve Smith, Sam Mills, Jake Delhomme. Now you talk about this last team that went to the Super Bowl. And again, Tony, I know you kind of followed it too during the Super Bowl week. Cam Newton, he's set up live at his own podcast, doing his thing. He had Luke Kuechly come by and hang out with him. Greg Olsen. Dude, it's been like a reunion down there in Las Vegas, man, getting the boys back together. That was something that was really fun to watch. Dude, I think the Panthers, not only do we have a good history, but we have a history that Panther fans should be proud of, man. This is our history.
Yeah, and you're starting to get players that are associated with their team. Here's what Panther Gal 73 asked. She said, has anybody else from the team gotten in and to the Hall? And there have been people who have played for the Carolina Panthers that have made the Hall of Fame, but none. Yeah. But Julius Peppers was the first one that was drafted by the Panthers. So you got guys like Kevin Green. You got guys like Sam Mills. Peanut Tillman, did he make the Hall? No, he hasn't been retired. There's somebody else that Jared Allen, who played 1 year with us. That isn't, so you had these guys that had moments in Carolina,
right?
But they weren't Panthers. And some people, and if Pep wouldn't have come back and played those last 2 years with Carolina, I don't know how much we would have been able to claim him as ours, other than the fact that we drafted him.
Yeah, I mean, same. One of the other ones is Green.
Reggie White.
Did we say Green already?
Yeah, Kevin Green, Reggie White,
Sam Mills,
and Pep, and Jared Allen.
Allen. I don't think Tillman made it in yet, which is a surprise because he was a big name in the cornerback space for a long time in this league. He'll probably get in at some point, but he probably wasn't a splashy enough player. He didn't really go on to win any major things being in the NFL.
But pretty cool. He's on. He's an FBI agent.
Yeah,
how wild is that?
It is crazy.
It's pretty awesome. He's other players. I think Dan Morgan was talking about this when he was hired as the GM. Is like, or I heard him in an interview. Maybe it was Kyle Bailey, and you're kind of like, as a player, you retire at such you have a whole life ahead of you, and your whole life has been sort of your identity is so wrapped up in football. And that's why so many guys just stick in the game. It's part of them. It's what they're good at. It's what they know. So it's kind of neat to see Peanut Tillman. He's like, man, I'm going to go. Now he's going to probably be on like one of these FBI shows soon next.
Yeah. Like, I'm sorry if I don't think you're ever going to see Josh Norman make it into the Hall of Fame.
Oh, no, not even close. He's not even going to sniff it. All right. But one of the Hall of Famers in Cody's life is in the news.
Yeah. So listen. We have big news. This is huge news because for those of you that don't know, I really don't care about football outside of the NFL and college, right? But boy, I do now, baby, because let me tell you what, Panther fans everywhere are now fans of the UFL's Birmingham Stallions because they have signed our boy Matt Corral to a contract, baby. Let's go Stallions. That's right. This is the start of Corral's journey back to the NFL. I'm happy for him. I'm happy that he still has football in his life. Everybody was tagging me in this. Dude, it's funny because I'm known as the Matt Corral #1 fanboy. So everyone and their mama was tagging me in this, being like, oh, Cody's got a UFL team. And yeah, I do, man. Go Birmingham Stallions. I have no idea where or how to watch the UFL. I guess I have to figure that out on my own.
I think it'll be on ESPN.
Mo Scarborough plays for them, by the way. That you remember that running back? He sounds familiar.
Yeah. Went to Alabama, didn't he?
Yeah, this is how we all pick these teams. This is how we pick the teams we root for in these leagues. It's just we find a player that used to play on the Panthers or that we like somehow.
Yes. And dude, shout out to Panther Go 73. She has not lost the plot. Another dude done dirty by this organization. Ain't that a mouthful?
Man, he wanted to draft. Did we talk about this last week? Did you see old Matt Rule in the news?
Oh yeah, which by the way was a blatant lie. They have him on video talking about
he
the
said
quarterback
this, I wanted
that
him on the board. He said he wanted him on the board. He didn't say he wanted to draft him. But it was this is just a typical egomaniac Matt Rule is that as they're asking about Brock Purdy and his ascendancy to going to the Super Bowl, and because Matt Rule is a former NFL coach, he's being asked this in a press conference, instead of making this a story about how he saw Brock Purdy in college and he's not surprised that he had success in the NFL and how great and how happy he is for guys that can find their way from being Mr. Irrelevant to, finding success in a league that's tough, that chews people up and spits people out, even him. Instead, he makes it about him. He makes the whole discussion about him and how he was smart enough and no one else, and he got vetoed, right? And that's what the problem with Matt Rule, egomaniac. So enough with Matt Fool, the man who we used to be called Voldemort on this podcast, the man who will not be named. But let's talk more football. And you know what, Cody, I think we should take some calls, actually.
Let's do that. You want to take some calls?
Yeah, we'll take a couple of calls, and then we'll get into the NFL calendar that's coming up. So you guys stick around. We're going to talk about the deadlines for franchise tags, free agency, and a cool benefit that Carolina Panthers get for having a new head coach. We get a head start that other teams do not get. But we want to get you into this show. We want your opinions on all of the news in the NFL and the Carolina Panthers. The number's 252-228-5098. Let's take some calls.
Panther Nation, be heard.
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty. You shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like.
Who's that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in the snow?
Hey, shout out, this is Pastor Pickle, folks. I want to shout out Diesel Skills because he posted this morning, he posted Panthers last in total sacks with 27. Burns had 8 of the 27 and Louvu had 6. We only have 13 sacks in 17 games with everybody else on our roster. Third last in the league with interceptions on defense. Panthers gave up the most rushing touchdowns in the NFL. Fixable? It's a question mark. With better players, maybe. But this goes to show, folks, we can't concentrate on drafting a wide receiver and our offensive line and only doing those and not looking at the defense. That's a mistake. This roster's bad, and drafting a defensive guy with a 33rd pick is as important as drafting an offensive guy. Folks have got to get off this kick of stealing from the defense to fix the offense. If I still maintain that we should tag and trade Burns for picks, but if we can work out a deal and re-sign him, I'm still good with that. Because, the best thing about being last in all these categories is you can't go anywhere but up. So we're going to keep pounding. We're going to fix this defense because the Panthers have always had a tough defense, and we got to get back to having a smack you in the mouth defense. So keep pounding and attack the quarterback.
Yeah, I agree with this wholeheartedly. I think that the praise that this defense has been getting all year is, again, fool's gold. I'm not saying Evero isn't a good defensive coordinator. I think he honestly probably is a really good one based on the fact that it seemed as though this team was a very good defense. But those stats don't lie. The sacks number, one of the fewest in the league. When it comes to a lot of I didn't even realize that the most running touchdowns against this defense than any other team in the NFL. Don't know.
We've struggled with a run for years now. It feels like.
I know, but that's my point. I think right now, Evero being here is a good thing because I think that they can start to plan this defense and build it in the way that's the most proper for us to be able to be continuously successful. But I think the idea of keeping some of these players that are liabilities, that are maybe leading to this defense having these gaping holes to allow for these rushing touchdowns, while having Derek Brown, one of the best defensive tackles in the league, the fact that that's a stat that we have as a defense tells you that we need players outside of Derek Brown on this line. And clearly everybody we have on the line is not doing it. And I'm saying everyone intentionally.
Yeah, I think you've raised a ton of good points there, CK. One is that if anything, Evero is probably should be, sort of lauded because the Panthers defense wasn't worse than it was given the talent that it had, right? The other thing is that the idea that this defense was better than average, right? Or top, you heard top 5 at some points and different things in this. Is I agree, fool's gold. And we've argued about this on the podcast a lot in the past about what teams actually had to do to beat this team. And there's a reason they didn't have a ton of interceptions. There's a reason that they didn't give up a ton of passing yards, is because teams didn't have to do that to beat them a lot of times. And CK, I don't even know. And I think the next great point you brought up is it's really about adding players to this defense that is going to be important, because really you only have Derek Brown, who is the kind of standout player, him, Luvu, and then arguably, I guess you could say Burns. And we all need JC Horn. The Panthers need him to be good and be healthy. Can't wait on that, or can't hold your breath on that. And there's a reason this team can't stop the run, and they're probably going to need a nose tackle, a big boy in the middle that can help alleviate some of the stress on Derek Brown in this 3-4. They're going to need help at linebacker. And Cody, let's go ahead and bring it up, since he brought and mentioned the tag and trade part for Brian Burns. Mike Kay put out a story for the Charlotte Observer this week, and it was the 8 most pressing free agent position groups that we are going to need to touch upon. And he listed number 1 overall was the defensive. What? I don't even know. I forgot now already. Let me see. Got it in the show. Number 1 overall, he put, and we won't go to, he put wide receiver number 1. I'm surprised he didn't put defensive end number 1, because right now the Carolina Panthers, the 3 defensive, the front they're all free agents, right? If you think of this, is YGM free agent, Brian Burns pending free agent, and there was one other that he mentioned too. Well, and Frankie Luvu, if you want to talk about him being a defensive. See, I got it in here somewhere. Anyway, so what is this? I have a
list of all of the free agents that we have.
All right, the Panthers here's what he wrote. Panthers' top 3 edge rushers are set to become free agents: Burns, YGM, and Marquise Haynes. Oh, and really, nobody's going to, cry about those. But Brian Burns, let's talk about Brian Burns and what the Carolina Panthers are facing in these decisions real quick, Cody. Is the 3 guys that we talked about last week were Brian Burns, Luvu, Chin. We won't get into the Chin conversation today, but Brian Burns, everybody knows the history that's come with this guy, is the problems with negotiations when it came to Carolina, the numbers that he felt were deserved and earned. And, then the decline in play or production for him this season. And then there's going to be a million excuses for why that happened. Bad defense. How is Brian Burns going to put up these numbers when they never pass the ball? And all of those are legitimate kind of discussions to be had. But, will Brian Burns want to stay in Carolina? Can Carolina afford to lose him? And right now, it seems like everybody's leaning towards the best thing to do with Brian Burns is to franchise tag him and either play him or franchise tag him and trade him. And what you've tried to also say is the non-exclusive franchise tag.
Yeah.
Where you offer him a deal. If somebody pays him more, then they got to give you a first round pick for it.
Yeah. To me, that seems like the most fair deal right now. You average out the top 5 edge rushers, and then he gets paid whatever that average is. According to SpotRack.com, a new deal for Brian Burns is looking to be around $21.7 million per year. So again, this is my opinion.
A lot more reasonable than.
Well, again, and I have no way of proving this, but it is my opinion that Brian Burns wanted more than that, or else he probably already would have been signed by now. At least in my opinion.
Yeah, because we heard numbers. Who's the guy from the Raiders?
We heard numbers, but none of them were ever really confirmed for Brian. Like
they
we heard
said that they saw him as who's the guy? The
Max Crosby.
Yeah,
which is not sorry.
So I think he was a $23 million player. Right,
so basically,
23.
my question to you boys, Tony and CK, and everyone's in the chat room is: what is more? What are you capable of stomaching more? Paying Brian Burns north of $22 million per year, or this nifty, shifty little trade that's been making its way around the internet? Bleacher Report is the one that proposed this trade. It is for the Carolina Panthers receiving a 2024 first-round pick from the Baltimore Ravens, a 2025 third-round pick, and Ed David Ojabo for Brian Burns. And do we think that this is a good deal? And would you take this deal for Brian Burns? Is the specter of losing Brian Burns worse than the specter of potentially overpaying Brian Burns relative to his perceived worth? Gentlemen, what say you?
I say that would make the pain of losing Brian Burns more bearable, in my opinion. My concern is last year we're talking about Brian Burns not performing well. But for the majority of his career, he's been a stalwart on this defense. So he had a bad year and a contract year. I don't think that's a direct indictment on his ability to play at a high level. So I'd be all right with getting him here. I don't know that I like the number, but I'm willing to stomach that price to keep him here in Carolina.
I would take this deal, as Patty Grimes says, right away. And the reason I would take this deal is not just because it's not really an indictment on Brian Burns. I think what CK brings up are some good points as well. The decline went last year down is like, we know that Brian Burns is a very good player, right? I do have some concerns if he's a great player. Right. Or I'm not, and I'm rooting for him. So when you say things like that, I feel like if people say, and you don't believe they can be great, but I feel like this is people say, oh, he's entering his prime. He's entering his prime. Well, it's kind of been in his prime too already. Right. Is so like,
right.
If we just continue to talk about future potential for a person, then we're just kind of, it's like a belief bias, like a decision bias we already had, that we believed he was going to be great. So he still can be great. The reason I would take this is because I think that the relationship between Brian Burns and the Carolina Panthers is a strained one.
Yeah.
I think that they are going to have to pay him more than they should because of the way things have happened. Right. Yeah. So I think he has, in this case, strangely more leverage than he should given his statistics, right? Because of the way it handled and because the Carolina Panthers just don't have any other players. So that's the thing. If we let him walk, that's the worst thing you can do, right? Is letting him walk. The Panthers just have too many holes to fill. I think that paying him to stay in Carolina, you're going to pay him more than another team would pay him. Because of the circumstances of the team. I also don't think that this defense is ready for, like, if we continue to talk about him needing to break out, he's going to be this elite player. I think it's going to take time for this defense to be a type of defense where Brian Burns' skill sets all of a sudden flash as like, oh crap, he's on SportsCenter, he's on this and that, because we don't have a lot of pieces around him. He is our main piece. And then are we going to continue to just hear, oh, he doesn't have any help. So I think this is what if the Carolina Panthers were able to take this trade, I think they would not only save money that they could then continue to use to build for a longer term projection of the team. They would then have a first round pick. They would then add some picks to the stable to continue to get good. And then David Ojabo is a young player who Remember, he tore his Achilles right before the combine or something. It was the combine, right?
Yeah.
And I think he was on the same team that who's the guy that went to Detroit? The defensive end there.
Yes, Michigan. He went to the Michigan Wolf. He was a first-round pick. He was perceived as a first-round pick, and he got hurt.
Who was the guy that went? He's like the best.
Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah, Aiden Hutchinson. So he played on the other side of him, and I'm pretty sure.
And then Panther Pickle adding some context. It says Ojabo has played 5 games in 2 seasons and was a healthy and active for 7 games last year.
I mean, so is the question is I don't know if like all of a sudden you're going to get a player that's going to be, good even, but at least you get a player that's younger. You do have the problems with this surgery, the injury history, but
He's
I
just
think
a warm body pretty much at that point.
Or maybe it's just like, look, he's also playing on a team too. Like, how is a guy who is inexperienced, who is coming off an injury, going to make a break into that lineup when the Ravens had the best defense in the league? So I don't even know if it's just him being a healthy scratch is all his fault, right?
Yeah.
Or, it's just like, hey, we're, we don't need you right now to rush along.
And listen, I think there is a fair middle ground to this conversation, Tony, where it's the Panthers missed their opportunity to build around Brian while they had the opportunity. And now that hourglass of sand has run out. And now it's time to either put him on a different team or pay him like he's a part of your plans for the foreseeable future. And
I think you're going to have to pay him a lot then.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like the Panthers want to do either of them. They're stuck in this weird middle ground where they can't really afford to get rid of them because then you need 2 edge rushers. And you don't really want to pay all the money.
Can't afford to pay him either.
Yeah, you can't afford to pay him. Listen, Kev, our boy White Chocolate Espresso has converted me, man. Go out and get Jadeveon Clowney for 1 season. Go get Leonard Floyd for 1 season. Get some draft picks. Yeah, man. Wouldn't it surprise me if Brian Burns became the next player that got traded away from the Panthers and ends up being a breakout player somewhere else?
I would be happy for him.
Surprise me at all, man.
I'd be happy for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's then I've also heard the devil's advocate position, Tony, that people are tired of seeing our players get traded to other places and then balling out, like that first Joe Person tweet that we put up there. And I understand
the Scott Fowler one. Yeah, but I mean, also like these guys go to teams that are good. Like, it's not that they all of a sudden became greater players. What it is they're a good player on a bad team, and a good player on a great team can be a great player, right? That's the thing is you almost feel like you're wasting their career when we're not ready to put the pieces in for them to really thrive. It's like, that's why Hassan Reddick wants to stay you heard the rumors that he requested a trade, which weren't true. But, is these guys, those types of players really thrive. Mike K put out, wouldn't that be, he said Dan Morgan has the opportunity to do a funny thing. We'll talk about that later. Let's go to Muscles.
C3 Mafia, how you doing? That fucking, I have a whole lot to talk about, so I'll bring it all back. C3, you fucking guys. These fucking guys. Fucking Tony, fucking Cody, fucking CK, and occasionally Greg. He's been taking way too many days off. Hey, Greg, you keep taking days off. Replace you know what I mean? It shows them that I said, and I can't bring, but I believe a fucking 10-year-old. That's what I could bring. Anyway, I digress. Anyway, you fucking guys, every Tuesday, Friday, even the fucking Paisans, Diesel, Skills, fucking Panther Pickle, Anthony, the other one. Yeah, I'm getting old, boys. Tomorrow's my birthday. I'll be 39. And don't happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Paisan.
But anyway, you fucking guys, you always bring it Tuesday, Friday, post-game, pre-game, whatever the fuck. You guys are always on point, and we appreciate that. The C3 Mafia appreciates you fucking guys. All right, my daughter's got a basketball game Time to go kick some ass and yell at some fucking stupid referee making $12 an hour. All right, I gotta go.
You fucking guys.
Those have to be the next shirts, man.
Yeah.
C3 Mafia. Dude, and those will fly too, man. C3 Mafia, that's the thing right there, brother.
All right, let's take another call. Thanks, Muscles.
Podcast brothers, how y'all doing? It's G Cavassier.
What's up, G?
What up, G?
Man, we all know that free agency is coming up. Let's talk about that Super Bowl. That Super Bowl was pretty damn good. And all people saying that shit was scripted and everything. No, the hell it wasn't. That shit wasn't scripted at all. And I said this last year, and I'm going to say it again. I am not a Brock Purdy fan at all. I don't like that dude, man. His team is damn stacked. And everybody's like, oh, God, he's the truth. But anyway, enough of that bullshit. Hey, man, you know free agency is coming up. And a player that nobody's talking about who I would love to see to come to Carolina is damn Devontae Adams out of the Raiders. Man, he will be an upgrade with the wide receivers because I don't know who the hell we're going to keep, who we are letting go. I don't know, man. And when it comes to Brian Burns, y'all seen it a couple weeks ago, Baltimore wants him. They're willing to give up their first round pick for him or some shit like that. I think they're like a pick before us or something like that. Hey, if he wants to go to Baltimore, do it. And everybody talking about franchise tag him. I would not do that because I think that shit's like at $20 million, a little bit over $20 million, just to franchise tag his ass. So I don't know, man. Give me your thoughts on that, y'all. Keep pounding.
Yeah, a good time there, G, is when we just had that conversation about Brian Burns. And, you know, I guess their first round pick would be a late first because they made it so far, right? They were so good this season.
AFC Championship game.
But I know there's a real validity to people's positions that the Carolina Panthers just can't let every player go when they don't have any players, right? So like you don't have any good players, and the few good players you got, you can't move those pieces all away and expect to get better. But I think that we're going to have to start really truly looking at the Carolina Panthers as a long build now, right? Is that it really is about incrementally trudging forward at this point and getting better as a team, building around, because we want to talk about if that team is so stacked that Brock Purdy was on, we're going to need to start working towards getting stacked. And that's not something that you're going to just be able to do overnight in free agency in the draft. Is that we're going to be talking about a 3-year process of like really adding talent to the team. And then you don't want to pay somebody, or I think the concern would be paying a guy like Brian Burns. And by the time you get the talent that can surround him to where he can really become that elite player that many people believe he can be, he's either going to be looking for another contract by then, or past that or we missed the moment. Right. I think you kind of explained it with
that's what I'm saying. It's like the hourglass has, the sand has run out. You have a time period that to sign your players and to get the most out of them and surround them with talent. And if you fail to do that and you're still rebuilding, now you're running into the same problem where you have to make a decision on Brian Burns and paying him a $25+ million contract when the biggest need in your organization is to surround Bryce Young with talent. You have to know what you have in Bryce Young. Tony, we gave up so much to get him. And yet, the entire argument amongst Panthers fans this entire year was, can you even make a fair evaluation of Bryce, given the offensive line in front of him, given the wide receivers that you had around him? We can't be having this same conversation at the end of year 2. Like, what would you rather do? Load up on offense around Bryce, at least to get something competent on the offensive side of the football, then maybe spend the next 2-3 years of draft picks and free agency on the defensive side of the football. That's around that 3 to 4 year rebuild that you're talking about. that the Panthers can't ever really seem to commit to.
I think there's too many position groups that need to be upgraded to say you're going to load up on either side of the ball. I think you're going to have to incrementally get better on both sides of the ball, right? Like, as we talked about the defense being potentially fool's goldish in one way. So the defense is going to have to get more talent on it from year to year to year, and the offense does too. I just don't think there's going to be an overnight sensation. And I know that that's what fans want. I saw your sparring partner, Monty, put out a tweet that said, this is how you basically attack free agency. You go get Calvin Ridley. You go into the draft and you double dip here and you do this. And you know what? There was no mention of the offensive line. And so what I think is the plans that people are putting out, that going and getting these weapons, surrounding him with weapons, that's not going to help him if he's getting murdered. So I think I think what you can do is, I think if you improve the offensive line and you get more talent on the team next year on offense, you have a better chance of fairly evaluating Bryce Young. And then you're going to do it one more time. You're going to have another offseason in year 3 where it's going to be the moment where you're like, hey, we've built the team the best we can to get around him, where we're going to have to make a decision. But I think that each side of the ball is going to need those types of forward hoe, and I don't think there's going to be an addition in free agency or a draft in a single draft that's going to just all of a sudden load up the offense or load, and so I just think it's slow and steady is going to sadly be the case.
Unless Dan Morgan comes out and surprises us and just has one of those rare drafts that teams sometimes have, where
you get
they
like
just
4 starters.
Yeah, where they just hit on every draft pick and get a bunch of starters out of the equation, man. But listen, for those of you who don't know, we are a year-round podcast. We take no breaks. And it's because of you incredible C3 fans, people like Will Horsley, who will come into the chat, Tony, and just randomly drop 10 gifted memberships.
The greatest gift you can do on the C3 Panthers podcast.
Dude, incredible. Will Horsley, you are the man, brother. Thank you so much. That love is reciprocated, bro. We appreciate you. And hey, man, now that the season's over, now it's that time where, I have to jump back into these draft picks, man, and these players and better knowing potential draft picks. And Tony's wanting to do
convince me to care.
Yeah, convince me to care. So, hey, man, keep it tuned to C3, man. The draft content is getting ready to kick up. It's going to be fun, dude.
Well, let's go to the brand ambassador.
What is going on, C3? This is Deez, live right here again for another Tuesday night. We're locked and loaded right where we need to be, right here on the longest running Panthers podcast. That's the C3 Panthers Podcast. Don't waste any time. Get over right now to CarolinaCatChronicles.com. Get yourself that C3 mug. Give it as a gift if you like. If you know someone's birthday is coming up. If not, get yourself a Panther Pickle t-shirt. Shut the hell up is what the man has to say. Let all your friends and family know that's exactly what they can do. They can shut the hell up about these Carolina Panthers, because we're going to get better next season for sure. Not only that, they got a G-Baby shirt. You make me sick. Let them know. I'm tired of watching this Panthers team lose, and it makes me sick. And you talking about it makes me sick as well. So visit CarolinaCatChronicles.com. We're ready and locked and loaded for another Tuesday night. Get excited. Let's rock and roll. We got the whole C3 fam here. We got the whole C3 community here. Let's enjoy our time together on the flagship show. Other than that, want to wish you guys a great Tuesday. Wanted to bring up a little point about Dave Canales. He mentioned he was going to build the offense around the roster. Well, boy, the Carolina Panthers fans have heard that lie before. We've heard that from Ben McAdoo. He said he was going to build the offense around the roster. He didn't until Steve Wilkes took charge. Then we started to build the offense around the roster. We heard that same lie. It came out from Thomas Brown and Frank Reich. They both said they were going to tailor the offense around the roster. They didn't. It was the worst offense we've seen in Carolina maybe ever. It was horrendous to watch. Is Dave Canales lying to the Panthers fans as we've been lied to before? Should we buy into the hype this year? I don't know. Let's stay tuned to C3 for the latest news and opinions from the fans' perspective. Keep pounding, C3.
Nice.
Hey,
he's doing my job for me.
You see why we call the man the brand ambassador? Bro, it's for a reason, man. Who else will get you hyped for C3 like these little skills? He is the man, dude.
He brought up Dave Canales in the, I mean, look, sometimes we don't want to get upset with people for saying the right things. Right. It was almost like we would get upset with Bryce Young because he was just too perfect of an interviewer or something like this. You know what I mean? Like, we got to give credit to people for doing, yes. Is it coach speak? Is it these types of things? Certainly. And you're just going to there's just a degree of that. Right. But he is right. Every coach has told us this. Every coach has acted like, oh, we got to build and tune our team to this. But what you have seen, and he's right about, is that a lot of times it's a lie. That these guys are trying to find people for their schemes, guys that they, instead of building to a scheme or a game plan to their players. I think the good news, Deez, is that Dave Canales has a track record of doing that, though, right? Is that he's not just had success with like a Peyton Manning. You're like, oh, he's Peyton Manning's quarterback coach. I don't care who Peyton Manning's quarterback coach was. He was his own quarterback coach. Who cares who the offensive coordinator was for Peyton Manning? He was the offensive coordinator on the field, right? So, but I think if you go back and you look at Russell Wilson, and maybe he's the least important on this list, but Russell Wilson's 2 best seasons, Dave Canales was a part of it. Geno Smith, his best season in all of football, comeback player of the year. And you saw him take look, they just weren't as good this year, right? When Dave Canales was gone. Now, he was just the passing game coordinator. So, I mean, you don't want to over credit him for the success of a Geno Smith, but you also can associate him with Baker Mayfield, right? And Baker Mayfield's arguably his best season. So I do think that we have seen Dave Canales' name associated with players who have seen turnarounds, who have had those types of, all of a sudden, that turnaround does seem because the team believes it plays to their strengths. Baker's strength is to kind of rip it downfield and play hero ball. And did you see him go out and like win the skills competition? He's playing with confidence. You know what I mean? It's just like, he's just, and everybody glows about Dave Canales. The last point I'll make about Dave Canales is we don't have to buy into any hype, D's, because there's really not a lot. And this is what's great about this hire to me. And what was the fear of bringing in a Ben Johnson? You bring in Ben Johnson, it's like, oh, all of a sudden we better get good quick. Like, I feel like I could be very happy with this Carolina Panthers team adding some good players through the draft that we see future success with them being a part of it. We see Bryce Young step forward and we get enthusiastic about him as leading the team as a quarterback. And I don't think all of a sudden, like last year, we're sitting here, I picked the fucking Panthers to win the division last year.
I mean, should we be shamed for sniffing the hopium? Like, when we see good things, should we never think that we could take that next step forward? Because if not, then what are we even hoping for this year, man?
Well, maybe we could just hope for a reasonable success, right? Like, I mean, it's just a reasonable.
What would that be? What would that reasonable success be?
To me, it is adding players through the draft that we find that we can see being part of a team getting better in the future. I think it would be us seeing Bryce Young step forward as a prospect to where you have less trepidation about him, or you have less of it. I think is just plowing forward. And I don't even know if that translates into a ton of wins. I mean, I think this team, like anything below 5 wins is disappointing, period, for any team, right? Like, I want us to trod forward. I don't need us to win the division. I don't need us to win the playoffs. Now, I'm not saying those things wouldn't be welcomed. Right.
Some progression to see Bryce, to see shades of a superstar from Bryce. And I do mean superstar. It doesn't have to be that all year next year, but we want to see the types of plays reminiscent of what would be a first overall pick. And I think you make a great point. I would love for this draft coming up, the 2024 draft, even potentially without our first round pick, that we hit on a bunch of players. I want this draft that we can look back in the next 2 or 3 years, look back at the 2024 draft and say, man, that meant something. There are some cornerstone players in that draft, and even in this free agent period. I think
or
that
to
would
where
be awesome.
free agency will matter in the future. You know what I'm saying? Is to where you're like, all of a sudden we can bring in free agents to add to these young players and fill in some gaps. But you know what? Is it starts right here with a superstar. Mike Hollinger. $20 super chat. Man, that's a hero right there.
Yes, sir.
Hero. He says this: we're in the NFC South. We can turn around faster in other divisions. We have some guys on the O-line with talent. If we acquire 3 starters on O-line and 2-star receivers, this might turn around faster than 3 years. I mean,
it sounds like a lot on the surface.
It does. And I don't even know if when I say turn around, his turn around means being competitive to me.
Yeah,
sure.
You know, and that's kind of what Tampa Bay was this year. They made the playoffs, but I don't think is that like I would want. If I'm a Tampa Bay fan, I'm worried that they're not going to keep moving forward after this year, right? Like
I think there's a good likability they take a step back, honestly.
Right?
Because Baker, here's the thing: Baker is going to try to cash in. Like he can't afford not to cash in on this year. Like this is the year he goes for that long-term contract, anywhere at least to the best of his ability. And even if he does take a 1-year deal, it's going to be a big dollar contract. Wherever he lands,
like 30 million 1 year, 30 million or something.
And if Mike Evans gets the contract that he's looking for, he's not going to be playing for Tampa Bay with Baker getting that same contract either. They could try to do some cap magic, but paying 2 guys, $70 million over, is going to be a difficult thing for the Tampa Bay Bucks. So we'll see.
Which is good for the Panthers progressing in the division. But I also, while we can progress quickly in our division, you still have to play teams in the playoffs that are outside of your division and much better.
Yeah.
Right. So like you could see a team, look at how quickly, as the Texans are a great example, the Texans, we actually kind of want to do what the Texans, this is what we want a season next year, like the Texans had, but it doesn't even have to require the playoff success. You believe in your quarterback by the end of the year. You believe you got your guy, right? That's what we need. If you want to know what success is for me as a Carolina Panthers fan next year, it's me believing that Bryce Young is the future, right? Not having added doubts, not having to over justify and over argue and try to find every single one play, right? And I do think he played well enough. I think there's a way that this could happen. I want to see that maybe Dave Canales could be an answer for us as a head coach, and I want to see us get better through the draft. Those are the things, and I don't know if that's in wins that really is the way that you convince me of that. But I want a competitive team that fights, that gets more talented from this year to next year, then gets more talented from next year to the year following.
Yeah, some real progression, man. We've been down bad so long.
We don't want to be back here talking about, do we have to, no. is Dave Canales, do we just need to, are we going to have to give him another year to see how it comes? We don't want to give it, see like, we need another year to see if we want to believe in these guys. We want to believe in them.
Oh, yeah. And Tony, we didn't even talk about this. The NFL honors thing. Did we talk about that? So no. Keegan Michael Key, he was the host of NFL honors where they named the MVP and they named all the awards. And during his opening monologue, he said Taylor Swift is in Tokyo, Japan right now. The only people further away from the Super Bowl are the Carolina Panthers.
No. Zing.
And dude, Coach Canales responded to it on Twitter with like the little eyeballs and the little written note emoji. Like, yeah, we're taking notes. So I like that, man. Let Canales get all the bulletin board material, get some fuel for the fire, and get everyone good and pissed off when it's time to come in for football for the 2024 season. No one expects shit of us. Who the
Keegan Michael Key.
Keegan Michael Key, the guy from Key and Peele.
Oh,
Yeah, it was his one.
LMAO. Oh my God, LOL.
Lots of
Oh my
lettuce.
God.
You're so funny.
Oh my God.
So funny.
Dude,
He
so
is funny,
but
actually.
I mean, look, Tony, we already talked about it. We're we have the worst odds,
Yeah, and we
making the
should.
Super Bowl. Yeah, and dude, it's not hard to do better than a 2-win season. So we should be excited that we have the potential to be better than we were. But I like the potential for us to come out pissed off, and Dave Canales can come into his boys and say, "Everyone thinks y'all ain't shit. Are you going to confirm or deny what they're saying about you?
You ain't
your
shit.
destiny's in
That
your
ain't
hands."
shit.
Yeah, man, get them mad, dude.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I think we're playing kind of finally with a little house money as fans.
Yeah,
where we just don't have this unrealistic expectation. You had negative Greg. We had pessimistic Greg saying they were going to win 10 games this year. I was the most pessimistic about the team, and I said anywhere from 7-9 to 9-8 or whatever it was. And that. So to me, I do believe any team that wins less than 5 games is a bad team. So I mean, if you want a number for me to feel better, if it's a win total, I would love to get to 5 or more. Right. To me, that would feel like a victory in itself at this point.
Sure.
But all right, let's take another call.
C3, hope everybody's having a great February so far. I wanted to call in Cody, Tony, Greg, DK. Love you all. Haven't called in a while, but you called me out last week in my text or in my comments, Cody, and I just wanted to kind of get back. I don't want to bring up old shit, but I told you, I mean, we shouldn't have traded the farm if your comp is Mr. Irrelevant. And I'm going to concede, all right, we have a 7th round quarterback in Brock Purdy playing like a 2nd or 3rd round quarterback. That's fine. You don't trade the farm for that. Tony, you talk about being in the desert and thirsty for a quarterback. Well, if you're walking through the desert, you do not trade your right leg for a canteen of water. And that's what we did. You trade your right leg for a medvac out of that fucking desert, back to America, let them patch you up from there. We traded too much. We weren't in the spot to do that, which leads me to where I really want to go. Enough with the old shit. Whatever comparison you want to make for Bryce. I know hope springs eternal in the off season, and that's our favorite part these last 6 years since David Tepper has taken over. So holy shit, we got a brand new coach that did his dog and pony dance, and it was great, and everybody's blowing smoke up his backside. Man, we have got a first-year coach that has 1 year of calling plays in the NFL. He's going to be calling plays for a second-year quarterback who is seeing ghosts right now. I don't know why everyone's so excited about this year. We have a front office. Man, I hope you guys get down on your knees and pray that Dan Morgan graduated from Hogwarts before he went to University of Miami to play football, because he and Megamind have some wizardry to pull off.
Megamind.
And 2 of our 21 free agents, and we're out of cap money. How are we going to shore up that front line? How are we going to shore up the defensive line? How are we going to bring – man, I don't know why everyone's so excited about this year. This is going to be a disaster. I'm hoping 2025 is looking like maybe closer to what the NFL wants every team to be, 8-9, 9-8, parity in the league. We've got a long way to go. D from Sanford, please talk me off this ledge. I love C3 family.
I got you. I'm going to talk you off this ledge. The scenario that what's the coach in Los Angeles, the Rams? I can't remember his name for whatever reason.
The new one?
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, for the Rams, main head coach.
McVay.
Oh, Sean McVay.
Sean McVay inherited a dumpster fire of a team in the Rams when he took over there. They had traded the farm away for Jared Goff. They didn't have anybody that was of note at that point in time. They might have had 1 or 2 star players on defense or offense, but ultimately he had to build that team to what it was. Nobody looked at Sean McVay and said he is going to be what he became. Okay. So yes, we have an uphill battle. Nobody is saying next year is going to be the change that we're, that we hope it is. We don't know. Nobody knows. But I sure as heck am optimistic that we have a coach that has brought people in that have a unified vision to him, that took this job because of Bryce, not in spite of him. And so we may not be sitting in a great position. But I'll tell you what, I feel like our position can get better a lot more quickly than people expect.
I do too. And listen, he talks a little bit about the comparison I was making between Brock Purdy and Bryce Young, and how if they were comparable, you wouldn't trade up to number 1 for Mr. Irrelevant. And there's nothing I can say to you, man. Until Bryce makes it good on that investment, there's nothing to say that you're wrong about that assessment. And at this time, I agree with you. Until further notice, I would not have made that kind of trade for Bryce. And that's not to say that he can't be good. With that said, there are certain
trade one day in the future.
Sure.
He could be. And the other thing,
right,
I think,
but hold on, let me just say this
at
though.
him as Mr. Irrelevant. Maybe he just shouldn't have been. If you shouldn't have traded up for Bryce Young because that's
he
his
was
comp,
underdrafted,
then Brock Purdy is also shouldn't have gone last.
Right, at 1,000%. How about this is fair? To me, right now, Bryce wasn't necessarily worth that number 1, and Purdy was better than 265 or whatever the hell he was when he was drafted. I think that's fair. However, we have to accept some of these things and move on with what the reality of the situation is. That's your quarterback, and now you're going to have to build around him. I think quarterbacks like Tua Tagovailoa and Brock Purdy should give everyone a little bit of hope that there is a blueprint to build the type of team that you need for Bryce to be successful. I also understand it's a lot easier said than done procuring a Tyreek Hill or a George Kittle or a Christian McCaffrey, so I understand that, but there is a way for Bryce to be special and to survive, and not even just survive, but to thrive in our offense. But
I think he can be a lot better than those 2 players too, right? So is that, I think if that's the blueprint, is I see traits in Bryce Young that I think can be better than Tua. I think Bryce Young can be a better player than Tua. I do think that, but it is a hope thing. But that's what that's what the draft is about. That's what that's why we call them prospects.
And if you are able to get a Calvin Ridley, who a lot of people think would be somewhere in our wheelhouse of players, I think that would be a good signing for us. Brandon,
we'll go through that. Look, we got 3 calls left. Let's power through these 3 calls, and then we'll finish out with the free agency prospects. All right.
Okay. Cool.
What's up, C3? It's Tyler here. Been a minute
since I've
been able to call in and listen to you guys. Life's been crazy, so hope you guys are doing well. Biggest offseason priorities. It's got to be protecting Bryce Young and giving him weapons. I'm all about, and hopefully we can re-sign Frankie Louvu. Hopefully we can work something out with Brian Burns. But to me, you have to prioritize giving help for Bryce Young. Defense was great. Ezra Rivera did a great job with the defense, especially with the injuries. But didn't mean anything with Bryce Young getting hit as much as he did. I honestly, interior offensive line is the biggest thing. And I'm still unsure about Icky. I think you have to give him some competition. I wouldn't be mad, honestly, if they found someone in the draft, like if a top left tackle dropped down to us and we put Icky a left guard, or if we found someone free agency that we could put Icky a left guard. But we have to figure out, number one priority is figuring out offensive line. And then, to me, close second is wide receivers. I don't want T. Higgins or Mike Evans, if that means at the expense of the offensive line the way it was last year, because you're not going to have any time to throw the ball. You got to get Bryce Young time. You got to give this guy every opportunity to succeed and figure out if he's the guy or not. Because last year, you can't really tell me based on last year that, that gives me an indication of who Bryce Young is. You don't know. So we have to be able to protect him and give him weapons.
Right.
But it's going to be interesting to see what Dan Morgan does, and with a new face at GM and a new top guy, how does that Brian Burns thing work out? Are we able to get some good deals and things that make sense for both sides? So we'll see. Looking forward to see what your thoughts are about what you think your biggest priorities are for what you think the Panthers should do. But good to talk to you guys. I hope you guys have a good night. Keep pounding.
Stick around. We're definitely about to get into those priorities, because I think I kind of disagree with some of the order that maybe Mike K put it in. So we're going to get into those free agencies. He's ranked the top 8 position groups they need to address, right? Like in order. And we've got some free agent real targets in each. We're going to do 3 position groups tonight, and then maybe we'll do like 3 next week or something, see how it goes. So appreciate that call. We'll take these. We'll get these calls out of it, and a lot of these things we'll be addressing in the next couple of minutes. So stick around.
Hey, guys. It's Anthony from Charlotte. Hope y'all boys are having a good Tuesday. Quick shout-out, Patrick Mahomes, young GOAT. Best 6-year start to a career we've ever seen. He's inevitable. But on to the Panthers, man. Listen, I kind of touched on this earlier, and listen, I have no problem with optimism from fans, right? I have no issue with that. But the more I'm starting to think of, it's almost like these fans lose their minds every offseason. Like you got people talking about how we could go after L'Jarius Sneed, and that AJ Brown's gonna somehow make his way over here, and I even threw out Brandon Ayuk today. As like thinking about it, but then I rewatched it and it said like, if he's not happy in his situation in San Fran because they are not winning and he's not completely bought in, that made me think, why the fuck would he want to come here?
Exactly.
So all I'm saying is, guys, like, don't expect big time free agents again, man. We also don't have the most amount of money this year. I said this last free for all. Really, it's next year when we have money. But here's where fans need to understand, like, and this is a credit to G, baby. He's been saying this for weeks now, ever since Dave Canales and Dan Morgan got hired. We need to build through the draft. You need to acquire as many picks as you can, get a bunch of homegrown players here
I agree.
on rookie deals, because that's the best way to find young talent. I'm sorry. Like, we are not a free agency destination. And this is the other thing. For all the Dan Morgan fans that I keep arguing with saying, oh, well, he may go out and make a splash play. What the fuck are you talking about? We need this guy to actually hit on some damn draft picks. Because
Amen.
if they can't do that, then what is the point of Bryce Young even being here? We don't know what we have in the kid yet. I don't care that people are calling him a bust. That is a bunch of bullshit. All we want to see is, what do we have in this kid so that we can make a proper decision, because I know the fan base is going to cream for another quarterback the following year. Not like that's going to fix half the problems we've had here. But still, like, this is just, we need to hit on draft picks. We need to trade guys like Brian Burns. See what you can get for Chin. See what you can get for Jackson. Flip those guys for picks and draft your own players. And if they can't draft good players in like even if Bryce gets another year here after this upcoming year, and we still don't know what we have in it because the fucking roster sucks, because our last general manager traded our best players away, then it's a complete failure and everyone should just go at that point. I'm sorry, I'm raging here, guys, but I cannot stand how these fans are so delusional sometimes about the most simple concepts of this football team. But hey, those are just my thoughts, Anthony from Charlotte, keep motherfucking pounding, boy.
Damn, Anthony said y'all got a smooth ass brain.
He brought the fire. That's
so
my
I
call
agree.
tonight.
I agree wholeheartedly, and I want to address this up front. I think the only priority that we need out of Dan right now is to show that he can draft. That has been where we have missed a lot over the past 6 years, is our ability to draft players and develop them into competent starters on this team. I do believe, I mean, we're going to have to, sign free agents. We don't have to necessarily go big splash free agency. We can probably get some quality players that will allow you to do what he's talking about, and that is build a team that is somewhat competent to show you what Bryce can do. And if we can show that Dan Morgan can draft next year, we have a first round and we have all our draft picks next year, and then we can start to move all those big pieces that we think are going to be necessary for Bryce's development, like a star wide receiver or whatnot. But right now, the offensive line has to be priority.
Teams that feel like they win in April or March in free agency rarely win when it matters in February. If you're going out and making a splash in a trade and you're acquiring people or making a splash in free agency, it should be because you believe those players are going to get you to somewhere quickly, right? And we ain't going nowhere quickly. And this is kind of where I had an issue with Monty's tweet where he said this. He said, extend Louvu, tag Burns. All right. Sign Ridley. Do everything you can to get Jair Alexander. Double dip at wide receiver in the draft. Add another running back in tight end. I just think this is like, it's too like
having to go on. You're basically building a brand new team in one season. It's not a reason. It's not reasonable to expect that to actually take place.
We need players. You know who the type of free agents we need? Rasul Douglas. Remember when Rasul Douglas came here and played well for us, and then he went to Green Bay and played well for several years. Now he's like, we need players like that are going to come in here and play better than what we pay them. You know, and because we have too many holes. So here's and the draft it's absolutely right. We are not, when we start talking about the position groups, guys, in just a moment, you're going to realize there are so many holes you can't fill them in free agency and the draft this year. This is a multi-year process, but this is where it is. It's about starting to build around things that you believe in, creating a vision, and also finding out. We need to find out this year, to me, is finding out if Bryce Young, if he gets closer, if he progresses, then I think we go, all right, we don't want that cream your pants conversation that he was talking about quarterbacks to keep existing. If he gets better, we can get more comfortable with that quarterback position. And I would like to see Dave Canales have field a team that looks competent, because if we can just say this, is that those two things right there aren't the questions going into 2025, then we can build incrementally, here. And this is only just a few seconds.
What's up, C3? Cody and Walter, Tony Dunn, and
it's only 19
wanted to call
seconds.
Say what's up, man. I mean, I look, I know shit to talk about tonight, but I'm just calling to say what's up, bro.
All right, man. We all, yeah, man. Good to have you listening to the C3 Panthers podcast, the longest running Panthers podcast on the interwebs. That's right. We've done 10 full seasons, haven't missed a week in 10 years. Occasionally had to move the show to a different day and time to account for that. But we're here week in and week out. 9:00 Tuesday nights is our flagship show, the C3 Panthers podcast. Friday Night Free for All has become an entity of its own, right? It's a while. It is. Cody, I don't know how you had the vision with the name and the vision, but it went right. I mean, the only other thing is you could have called it the C3 Royal Rumble is the only thing that would have been closer that could have compared with that title. But we're here. We're on iTunes. We're on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Like, subscribe. Look, this is the starving time for football podcasts, so we need you guys. We need you to lock arms, continue to call in, subscribe, tell your friends about the show, and recognize that this is the type of time where hardcore football fans dig in, trench in, and actually get even more into football. So we're here for it. Cody, we have a lot to do when it comes to this team and building this roster. Mike K put up this. He said in his story on Charlotte Observer, he said he ranked the 8 position groups. I'm going to ask you guys this. If you were going to say the 8 position groups that the Panthers need to, and I'm going to read the title clearly. I want to make sure I don't screw the title up to see exactly what he said. And I wonder if it was just through free agency. Where is it? What would you rank the 8 needed, the 8 groups, or you don't even have to do 8. What are the top 4 or 5 groups that you need the Panthers need to upgrade in free agency?
Offensive line.
Okay.
Defensive end. Wide receiver. Tight end. Linebacker. Safety.
Okay. Cody, go ahead. And here is his wording. So it wasn't just free agency. He said, here is a ranking of Panthers' top 8 needs entering the offseason. All right. So you go ahead, Cody.
I mean, listen, how do you not say wide receiver? I mean, I really think that has to be, it has to be in consideration. I mean, I'm thinking of names like a Calvin Ridley, a Tyler Boyd, Gabe Davis would even be in our wheelhouse, and guys that would be good for us. And then another one, and shout out to Panther Pickle because he's been on this a lot too. That linebacker position, man, we need more help at inside linebacker. Shaq Thompson's getting older. I don't even know. I mean,
Older?
I think he's under contract.
Yeah, I don't even know if he is under contract. I don't know if
I believe he is. He's not on
deal he's done.
I don't believe he's on the free agent list. I did put it up here. I can check it out. But yeah, I mean, that linebacker core, that's been so terrible for us. We haven't been able to really replace the absence of Luke Kuechly and Thomas Davis in the middle of that linebacking core. I think that's also why Frankie Louvu is such an important piece going forward for us.
Too.
And I mean, we've even been having the discussion on the free-for-all, Frankie Louvu or Brian Burns, who is the more important re-signing for the Panthers. And you would be surprised how many people are on the side of Frankie Louvu.
Palmetto Money, C3 super fan. He says 8 groups: wide receiver, linebacker, defensive tackle, cornerback, defensive end, tight end, offensive lineman, punt returner, safety is his order. When you start to hear of some of the needs on defense, you're going to be kind of floored, right? Like what the Carolina Panthers are having to do when you talk about those needs at linebacker, when you talk about the defensive front, then when you talk about, hey, what is going to go on with these cornerbacks? I mean, who is even going to be the quarterbacks? Is this J.C. Horn and Dante Jackson or bust type season? This is how this was Mike K's ranking. He said wide receiver, then he went offensive line, then he went edge rusher, then he went cornerback, tight end, defensive line, inside linebacker, and running back were his top 8. All right. So let's talk about the wide receiver group, which he ranked number 1. He wrote this: the Panthers need to surround second-year quarterback Bryce Young with competent weapons. While Adam Thielen surpassed 100 receptions and 1,000 receiving yards last season, he was the only consistently effective outlet for Young during a forgettable rookie year. Fellow 2023 draft pick Jonathan Mingo struggled to find consistency and the end zone during his initial campaign. With new leadership in place, it'll be interesting to see how last year's second-round pick is used. DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault headed towards free agency. Terrace Marshall Jr.'s future uncertain. While I understand that wide receiver group is I can see why people think this is a need, I don't see how the wide receiver group can really get worse. I think we could go and find anybody off the street and it be easily replace Chark, Shenault, Terrace Marshall.
Dude,
losing those guys doesn't even make me
it doesn't worry us. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
It doesn't
Spot
worry
Rack had DJ Chark at $10 million.
Oh my
evaluation
God.
for $10 million a year.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how.
That
but,
calls
so
into question their evaluation, in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. So listen, we wanted to go through some of these guys, some of these receivers that could potentially be available for the Carolina Panthers. And the one that you hear often the most due to where Coach Canales and now our offensive coordinator, Coach Brad Idzik, they both come from Tampa. So why not Mike Evans? Another
I'll tell you why.
All right. I mean,
I'll
hey,
tell you why is one is he's going to command. He was already bitching about his money in Tampa. He's got 10 1,000-yard seasons in a row that he's not necessarily. I mean, look, if he gets to 12, I think Jerry Rice has 12. So like the record is in sight. So for him, I think if anything is that he's going to be looking to go to a team. I could see him. His argument for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers was I don't think we're going to be all that great necessarily. So if you're going to make me sacrifice my Hall of Fame kind of run, which he's going to make anyway, then I need to get the money for it. So I think where I thought this guy told me last night, and it makes to me kind of interesting, Mike Evans to Kansas City. That seems like something realistic to me.
Yeah, sure. They're going to load up to try to be the first team to ever win 3 Super Bowls in a row. So I can easily see that. By the way,
I think Mike Evans would go play for them for a discounted rate. If you're going to go to a team, the Panthers are going to have to overpay any talent. Think of what Jacksonville did last year when they paid Zay Jones, Christian Kirk.
Christian Kirk. Yeah.
You know, and all of these guys is that they were all pretty good players, but they had to pay more than they were worth.
Yeah.
And so Mike Evans would be an insane amount. I don't think it's realistic. And I don't think it's
realistic. I don't think it's realistic for a couple more reasons. I think like a lot of people will point to Gerald McCoy coming here. And I don't think that's a similar comp because they let go McCoy. And so he was a bit salty. If Evans leaves there, he's going to understand that they just couldn't afford to pay him. And he's not necessarily, I just don't see him coming inside of the NFC South.
I agree.
And so that just, I think we can just go ahead and remove that out of the equation. A lot of people love that idea. We are not going to have the money for him. He's going to be going after a contender. I just don't think that's going to be here with the Panthers.
Yeah. Hey, Mike Hollinger, again, with the $5, said wide receiver could have been better with coaching. There was no scheming open, no motion, no quarterback under center.
Yeah.
So, again, that kind of raises the point that maybe there might not be so much upgrading needed from a talent perspective. Maybe you upgrade your coaching. Maybe you upgrade your play calling. Maybe you might be able
to you add as an upgrade.
Yeah, and also we can't be hypocrites. We can't say that we want Bryce to turn it on and overcome all his rookie woes and then just instantly say Jonathan Mingo is trash and can never be a better football player than he was last year. Yeah, so again, you have to kind of consider all of these. And then and I'll pull them up in a minute here too. Kev is actually posting their market value. And I'll bring up both of those too as we're talking about.
This is the name hottest for Panthers.
Yes. So, and Tony, I'm on record saying that this is the most doable name for us. Just like we said, Coach Canales was a name that you could see the Panthers hiring. Wasn't the biggest name, but yet has things that you like a lot about him. To me, Calvin Ridley is in that same tier of free agent signing as a wide receiver for the Panthers. Not necessarily the highest regard. There is going to be more wanted free agent wide receivers out in the market, but I think Calvin Ridley would be cheap enough. He's getting a little bit older. I think he's around 30 years old already, but he is able to separate. He's a great route runner. That's something that has always been his sort of calling card. And I agree with you. I think Calvin Ridley would be a player that could be perfect for the Panthers this year.
I have concerns with Calvin Ridley. I know he had some good plays, but for the most part, last year he was a disappointment on the Jaguars.
Think so?
Let's look at it. I mean,
he started out hot and then it cooled off.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like 1 or 2 games.
But their whole offense cooled off. That entire Jaguars offense.
Absolutely. But, with that, Calvin Ridley made some mistakes. He had dropped some pretty important passes. So, I mean, and even if you want to look at that grade had him at under 70, which I find to be a concern coming from a team that's probably got DJ Chark ranked right there with him at that rate.
Yeah. And the thing that bothers me about Calvin Ridley, and I changed my mind on Calvin Ridley. I always thought that DJ Moore was the more explosive player and that Calvin Ridley was kind of like the more polished player, right? Like it was almost to me like the Surtain versus Horn argument, right? And Horn being DJ Moore and Surtain being Calvin Ridley. And I'd always just wanted DJ. To me, it's just like, gosh, the irony of Calvin Ridley being a Panther.
Yeah.
When we drafted DJ Moore that year, that kind of irritates me. I don't know why. Maybe it shouldn't. But I mean, hey, if we got Calvin Ridley, I would say, man, we got a better player in the room. Yeah. Another name on this list was, I just picked a couple. This is off of the PFF top 150. I was actually surprised Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown's name was a higher ranked prospect than Calvin Ridley. I don't know why. That to me, he seems a smaller player.
He's injury prone.
Yeah. I mean, I was intrigued that they had him as a higher valued free agent.
It might be because of his age.
Yeah.
A little bit younger. He's a burner. He was always supposed to be that number one wide receiver and then never quite lived up to it. Remember, he was supposed to be Lamar Jackson's number one.
Yeah.
That really didn't happen. Then he goes to be kind of a supplementary weapon for the Cardinals and Kyler Murray. That didn't really work out either.
You didn't really see them together much.
By the way, this name, I'm going to be real, does absolutely nothing for me.
Agreed.
Really?
I think that he's injury prone. I think he's a one-trick pony. I'm just not a fan of the move. It doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, no, okay. I agree. I think that's a bad. And the surprise, I do agree. I'm surprised that he is a little bit higher than Calvin Ridley. I think the Calvin Ridley question marks are always going to be around. He got suspended, but before that, if you guys don't remember, he actually was stepping away because of mental health issues as well. So even before any of that gambling stuff came out, he was already stepping away from the game, which, we've already had one person that we've had to question about whether or not he's actually in love with the game of football, and that was Henderson. And so here we are with the potential of another guy. You got a question on how in he is. But again, I'm not mad if we get him. I just don't want to be in this position where we're drooling over the prospect of having these guys come to this team and just continue to be what DJ Chark was or what Mingo's been or what have you.
There's two other names that I brought up that some people throw out as reasonable. This was and again, to be honest, I'm a little surprised in the ranking of these. Darnell Mooney is higher on the list than the next name, which is the next name on the list is Gabriel Davis from Buffalo. So it seems like these kind of players are both similar to me, and I might be wrong. Darnell Mooney they have a comp to him. He's like kind of like a Emmanuel Sanders like player. Gabe Davis, their comp is Devin Funchess.
Yeah.
Is he that big?
Yeah, he's a pretty tall. He's a big body receiver.
I thought he was a
far better wide receiver than Devin Funchess ever was.
I must be thinking of somebody different.
Cody,
I thought he was
I don't know.
Guy.
I don't know. Gabe
6'2",
Davis,
210. Okay, yeah.
Dude, I would take Gabe Davis on every day that ends with a Y over Devin Funchess.
Gabe Davis is only the only reason people know Gabe Davis's name is because his performance in that AFC Championship game against the Chiefs, where he had 4 touchdowns. Outside of that,
a good season though.
He's been the most. He was the most dependable postseason wide receiver on the Bills, I feel, the past 2 years in a row.
He had 746 yards and 7 touchdowns. He was decent.
And again, question mark. He was okay. And I would argue, go look at Devin Funchess' career and tell me that doesn't look eerily similar to his career as a Carolina Panther.
Yeah.
And tell me that Gabe Davis is a significant upgrade with having one of the best quarterbacks in the league and Josh Allen throwing to him.
I tell you this, if it was the beginning of 2016, we wouldn't be shitting on Devin Funchess. You know, we've been talking about how a rookie came out and made a big, had a season. Devin Funchess just didn't pan out. Gabe Davis, though, might be. I think these two players, and I went down and I scrolled. These are the guys that I think the Panthers are eligible getting more so than the Calvin Ridley, the Hollywood, or I would say like trade him for everybody wants to from Cincinnati.
Tyler Boyd.
I like T. Higgins.
Yeah. Tyler Boyd is another.
This is an interesting name to me. This would make me kind of excited, but I wonder, is Tyler Boyd? He's a slot receiver, right?
Yeah, but but that too.
One of the things that I've heard that I'm hopeful with Mingo is that the reason is that his natural position is more of a slot receiver, but Thielen was clearly better, and that's what Thielen's net position is. So, we don't need to go and get a player that's just going to continue to push Mingo into a position of failure. So that's my only concern with getting a guy whose natural position is in the slot. Go ahead, you guys' thoughts. I'm surprised Tyler Boyd isn't higher on the list.
Tyler Boyd is a name that a lot of people have been kind of mentioning as a free agent possibility. But to me, it's kind of like how you feel about Gabe Davis is how I feel about Tyler Boyd. He was the third option on a good team. It doesn't necessarily move the needle a ton. It just sucks that this is who Panther fans.
Guy?
No, Pittsburgh.
Okay.
ACC though.
Okay.
But it sucks that Panther fans feel like this is all we're capable of doing. Like these are the only types of wide receivers that would want to come here.
How does that feel bad? I think that's true.
Afford. Yeah, but how is this meaningful?
What is a name that is we can't. Mike Evans unrealistic. Calvin Ridley is touching your ceiling against it. And then here, the other one is I saw a name floating around. Do we have the Brandon Ayuk? Brandon Ayuk ain't gonna want to come here.
He'll come back to the 49ers.
Yeah, or he'll go to the Chiefs. So I just, Cody, I'm actually one of those people. I think those are the type of names that we would be eligible for.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying that it's sad. That's a sad state of affairs because I don't think that any of those wide receivers upgrade us a tremendous amount.
Oh no, I think so. Absolutely not. I think they're automatically better than everybody on the team.
Out of all those names that we mentioned, who's the biggest upgrade?
Obviously Mike Evans would be the biggest upgrade, but that's out of the realistic options. I would say, again, I don't think Higgins is the realistic.
Would be big.
But that's assuming that we're like he's right on the edge of being on the list of people that we can sign. I don't know that he would be able to. I'm curious as to what his market would actually be, because it can't be a substantial number, right? Maybe I don't know, what did Spot Track have him at?
I think Gabe Davis is interesting.
Calvin Ridley.
Ridley. Look, shout out to our boy White Chocolate Espresso. Ridley before the show, he put on Twitter a bunch of different options for us. So Gabe Davis would be $13.6 million a year, and Calvin Ridley would be $17 million.
I'm not paying him more than T. Higgins. God no. What in the world? Are you kidding me right now? They have him to make more. Oh no,
they have T. Higgins at almost 19 million.
Okay, I was like, I thought that they had him at 16. I guess I just didn't see the 8 there.
Dude, go get T. Higgins and have a number 1 wide receiver for Bryce for the future. Like, why not?
I mean, if he's willing to come,
then how are you going to do all
that.
the other stuff we got to do, Cody? That's, I guess, the kind of thing is that.
You
And
have
for
to
me,
draft. You have to draft. But Tony, you just said that you're going to take more than 1 year to do this anyway. So why not knock down some of the bigger offensive needs right now? A wide receiver, and maybe if we do that trade for Brian Burns, late first round pick, grab either an O lineman or another wide receiver or another D tackle.
Well, that might be, and I think the value of that position, your position there is like, instead of us just, like if you're at Christmas, instead of getting a bunch of $20 gifts, just buy me the PS5.
I also don't want to give up
no gifts. I don't need my stocking stuff. Just give me the PS5. No other gifts, instead of a bunch of nice, somewhat good gifts.
I'm not giving up on Mingo either, by the way.
I'm not either. I agree.
You can't do that after 1 year and all that turmoil we had.
He's such a punching bag for Panther Nation right now.
We literally have no choice. I mean, if you want to give up on him or not, he's going to be a Panther for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, I think there's still optimism around him being able to, do something more substantial. I'm hoping that the offense Dave Canales brings is going to be a lot more friendly to these wide receivers, not having predictable routes and what have you. As one of the callers or maybe somebody in the chat was talking about having more motion and under center, where I think that Bryce Young actually had most success last year was under center as well. So that'll be an interesting development there. I am afraid of paying for a number 2 wide receiver in T. Higgins, who would probably be a number 1 on most people's team. I just don't think that it's something that I could see logically working out. I'm still of the mind we've got to draft the majority of these high dollar positions instead of trying to pay these guys who, by the way, would have also been considered unlikely to be high paid wide receivers coming out of the draft.
Yeah. To me, though, is that while I can understand getting Bryce weapons is going to be important, I like the idea of getting one shiny toy rather than a bunch of just meh toys.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
To me, though, Cody, is that this next group, which Mike K ranks as the number 2 need to improve this offseason, and that is the offensive line. He said the entire line is named as a major need because significant change is coming to the group. New offensive line coach Joe Gilbert needs to figure out strategies at multiple positions as the offensive line struggled mightily last year. With Taylor Moton, he later writes, performing admirably at right tackle, Ekwonu could, in theory, be moved to guard after a forgettable season. That really potential would make for a shakeup of a couple of jobs on the line, as the Panthers don't have a surefire backup plan at left tackle on their roster. Left guard Brady Christensen, who missed all of 1 game last year, could be an option, even if that might underwhelm onlookers. He goes on to say, looks like the Panthers are going to retain Bradley Bozeman, barring some new competition. Right guard Austin Corbett had a strong first season in Carolina, but is now coming off of back-to-back knee surgeries. He had another knee surgery?
Yeah, he
re-injured it?
I don't know if it's the same knee or not, but yeah. But I think it was it might have been an MCL this time as opposed to the ACL. I could be wrong.
The Panthers
it was on. You're right, and it was on the same leg too.
The Panthers won't have a ton of options at left tackle in free agency, as good or great tackles rarely hit the market, but they could look to upgrade the guard spots in the mid-tier of class. To me, Cody, I don't think the Carolina Panthers can afford to just hope that they find a guard in the draft that can start in this league right away. I think we got to add some bodies, some proven bodies to the stable, even if Ekwonu were to work out at left tackle, even if Brady Christensen comes back and continue to play better from each year that he did. There are too many questions in the revolving door of guard, problems at center with Bozeman, and the lack of continuity of that line. And Moton is just going to get older. This Panther team, the mistake they made last year was believing that the starting line would be the starting line all season. And then remember how they drafted, how many people told us we should be high on that guard from NC State and all of this? The Panthers cannot afford to just go out there, trot the guys out there, and bring in a second or third only to add to their offensive line. They're going to have to go and get some veteran presence, and they might not be the best in the league, but we need some bodies and some guys that can play. Because if it doesn't matter if you got freaking T. Higgins, if Bryce Young gets murdered back there, it's all for nothing. A wrap.
It's all for nothing. Tony, I'm so selfish. I so badly wish there would be some vindication for me, who has been shouting at the top of my lungs to move Akim Kwanu to left guard and to give Brady Christensen a chance at left tackle. I know that it probably isn't going to happen, but damn it, I wish
even if it did happen, we still need another guard or two.
Yeah,
we got to be able to account for injury. And
sure.
Here's some names: Tyron Smith, tackle. Tyron Smith, when he's healthy, he's an impenetrable brick wall as a blindside protector, no matter the matchup. Smith playing through nearly the entirety of his 8-year extension signed in 2014. He agreed on a 1-year revised deal in 2023. Smith outplayed that deal once again, but he might be focused continuing to keep his career with the Cowboys or chasing a Lombardi a la Andrew Whitworth. So that is one of those guys that maybe is unaffordable, won't leave, or won't come to the Carolina Panthers.
Well,
right. So I mean, that's why he's number 14.
Take spot rack for what it's worth. They have him as a $7.4 million average annual salary. And to me, if that's true, I'd fucking do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I would pay him $14 million before I would pay Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would
do more for our team this year in a 1-year, 2-year deal. I would double that number for him.
Dude, I mean, hey, but why do it if you don't have to? Dude, if you can get Tyron Smith,
well, you will have to because it's Carolina. They're gonna have to overpay. So go ahead and add 40%.
I'm hoping that it won't be too much more than that, though. Man.
That just sounds cheap to me.
Dude, but he's like, how old is the dude? He's like 33 years old.
Yeah, but Whitworth and them, Russell Okung went and had 4 more years of great play with him.
Dude, that's 12 years at left tackle. Dude, I'm not trying to pay him a ton. If it's around that ballpark right there, I'd love that for us. I would do that in a flash.
All right. Well, who's next up on the list is, I mean, and that's the belle of the ball when it comes to left tackle. I really hunted down guards. Robert Hunt from the Dolphins. The Dolphins have a lot of players that they're gonna on their offensive and defensive fronts that they got to re-sign. So some of these guys are going to have to end up walking. He was a name. He says that he could be interested in hitting the market because, he's got a good sample size of good play. He's 6'6", 335 pounds. Got his start in the NFL at tackle. He's played both and held up admirably, but he found a home in the past 3 seasons at right guard. Was a great fit in the team's zone rushing attack under Mike McDaniel. So there's a name to keep an eye out for the Panthers. Another was Dalton Reisner from the Minnesota Vikings. He's at 65. I don't know how old he is. Reisner tried to get paid in 2023, but he didn't get as much money as he had hoped. He supplanted Ezra Cleveland at left guard and has been a plus pass protector for the 5th season in a row. He's ranked 65 in the overall, right? But I think we're gonna have to get a vet at some point for something on this offensive line. You can't just walk in and say you're gonna end this through the draft. So that was one name. Another name is the guy he supplanted, guard Ezra Cleveland, who went to Jacksonville, who is just down the list. And it seems like Cleveland is one of those guys that's kind of a savvy offensive lineman, but not necessarily a dominant one. right? Is that he always good position, never a bad player on the team. Maybe a guy that you could see, right? Maybe reasonable. Another name, Damian Lewis from the Seattle Seahawks. I wonder if there is some sort of connection. Maybe Dave Canales was interested there. I has trouble with faster interior linemen, but we need guards. We need some big boys up front. So those were some names that stuck out on the list to me. Number 3 on Mike K's list, unless you guys got anything to say about the guard. How do you?
No, our boy Kev is kindly supplying some market values for all the boys that you're mentioning.
Okay,
so,
cool.
Let's see what we got. Yeah, Damian Lewis, guard, $7.4 million listed as his average annual salary. We already did Tyron Smith. Dude, I didn't know there'd be that much. Ezra Cleveland is being listed at between.
These guys are 25. That's the thing.
They're younger. They're a little bit more.
They're trying to get their first deal.
True. So he would be almost $14 million. Robert Hunt, estimated at almost $12 million. And Robert Hunt.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kev. That's a big support. Let's look at the Army coming through.
Dude, strong.
And the last position group we'll talk about tonight that Mike K wrote about was edge rusher. And when I read this first sentence, I thought, how is this not the number 1 group? It says the Panthers' top 3 edge rushers are set to become free agents in March. And while Brian Burns is likely to receive the franchise tag, the group's outlook is still somewhat bleak. The Panthers could try to sign Yetur Gross-Matos and Marquise Haynes to short-term deals for the sake of continuity after both battled injuries last season. With defensive coordinator Ejiro Evero expect to return, Gross-Matos' versatility usage can continue if the front office elects. This is kind of like with the wide receiver group, man. Is like, I think I'm not going to be excited. Like, I think YGM, I would be okay with him coming back. I'm not interested in Marquise Haynes anymore. I'm sorry. Everybody's told me. And I feel bad. I mean, but just battled.
Well, but also, how long have we made that happen? I mean, he was drafted 2 years before Ron Rivera.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Fired. Yeah, it's been a long
And I know he's
time.
worked hard and then this and that, and he's played and showed some stints, and we all want him to be Mario Addison. But, I ain't trying to just bring back this 3 and run it back.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Derek Brown, Brian Burns, and YGM. I mean, we've already done that. It's time to kind of do something different. Now, Tony, talk about this a little bit, because I even have something of an update.
Yeah, because this is because it's bad sourcing right here. Ian Rappaport.
But then I have an update after this too.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Rap Sheet reported this earlier. He reported this 2 days ago. He said sources: Eagles All-Pro edge rusher Hassan Reddick has received permission to seek a trade following another disruptive season featuring double-digit sacks. The 29-year-old with 27 sacks in 2 seasons in Philly could land elsewhere. And then Mike K with the tweet of the week for me. He said, Dan Morgan has the opportunity to do the funniest thing. And that would be trade for Hassan Reddick.
Yeah, that would be the best thing ever, dude.
But I heard this is I saw Reddick came out and said that he didn't ask for a trade and he wants to stay.
Yes. So
is that your update, or is there another update?
Yeah, no. So my update is that he went and put on his Twitter. He said, never ask for a trade. However, I do understand it's a business. Preparing for whatever is next.
Or Hassan Reddick. Nobody ever. All he does is put up numbers, and nobody ever wants him.
Dude, he's literally one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. Look, we could make this right. We could make this right. We could make That's right. He has been the best pass rusher on the Panthers the past 5 years, and it's not even close.
He hasn't even played for us for 2.
Yeah, dude, that's what I'm saying. Dude, I never wanted to let go of Hassan Reddick. I'm a firm believer that year that Brian Burns made the Pro Bowl, it should have been Hassan Reddick that made the Pro Bowl. I believe is comparable to a Von Miller type. Like, the dude is that good as a pass rusher. And if you were able to sell me on the potential of Brian Burns and Hassan Reddick in the 3-4 and Derek Brown, and you add another D lineman, bro, that I would jump all over that, man. I would love it.
I mean, that would be. I mean, we were cooking. Both of those guys were cooking.
Bring them home. Do it.
The problem is that he's the most dominant player on their defensive line. So if you think you're getting him for less than a first, you are out of your mind.
For some reason, I think he just wants more money, dude. And I don't think they want to give it to him.
Dude has 27 sacks in 2 years.
Yeah, it's insane.
He has been the only person on that defensive line that has been consistent year over year so far in 2 years there. The dude is absolutely worthy of a first round pick. The argument you would have is Brian Burns is worthy of a first round pick. Why the hell wouldn't Reddick be?
The real C3 AP says give Reddick what Burns wants.
Dude,
that would be some shit, wouldn't it?
Let's go trade for Alex Highsmith. Plays for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They just signed him. He's a UNC Charlotte guy.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Was he UNC Charlotte?
Yeah, dude. Grew up a Panthers fan, too.
All right, so here's some names in free agency. One that I was completely down on before the Super Bowl, but had a good game. Chase Young had a good game in the Super Bowl. Says finally healthy in 2023 after spending the better part of 2 seasons recovering from a torn ACL. Young exploded early in the year and finished among top edge defenders in pass rush win rate on the season. Strong run defender as a rookie. Young does lose contain. I didn't like this name at all. 2 weeks ago,
but now you do.
I don't like it. But I would just say is maybe I drew too much of a opinion on him based on the one game I saw him look like crap and play lazy. I think I heard somebody say that Chase Young is going to have to do kind of what Jadeveon Clowney did at one point and go out and be a 1-year mercenary.
Yeah.
Get,
he's at that time.
He's gonna have an identical career to Clowney, in my opinion.
And that's the irony of that. The next on the list that I brought up was Jadeveon Clowney.
And you already know that Kevin's on board.
Yeah,
Kevin's been wanting to bring Jadeveon Clowney here for 2 years now. So, dude, I'm down for it. Even like a fighter for hire situation where you go and grab a Jadeveon Clowney, a Leonard Floyd. Dude, Clowney had a better pressure percentage this year than Burns, I believe, or pressure, or one of those stats. He had better numbers than Brian Burns.
The next name on the list is the one that intrigues me the most.
The most?
Yeah. Darius
Smith. I'm not mad at that.
He was traded from the Minnesota Vikings, Cleveland Browns this past offseason, revised his contract, converting it into a 1-year pack for $11.6 million. He vastly outplayed it again. Smith has size and explosiveness to rush from A gaps out to a 2-point stance as a stand-up outside linebacker, and he's earned a pass rush grades above 80 in all of his past 4 seasons. His kind of player comp, they said, was Robert Ayers. But to me, this is, and I want to see how old he is. There he is.
So Kev has bestowed us with some more market values. Just tell me when you're ready for those.
Yeah, go ahead, because he is he was born in he's 31. Wow. He's 31. I didn't realize that. You know, I just did. He had what 5.5 sacks this year, forced fumbled. Wow. Let's see if he's affordable.
All right, so a few of the names that you mentioned, Chase Young is looking at a $13 million per year contract, which again, kind of steep for me, but I understand the upside. Leonard Floyd.
This is who Kev wants, Leonard Floyd.
Leonard Floyd, $8.1 million average annual salary. They're marketing as a 2-year, $16 million. Jadeveon Clowney, 1 year, $7.2 million, 30 years old, former number 1 overall pick, Carolina connection. He can play the 3-4 and a 4-3. Here we have Brian Burns here. Sorry to put that. The $21.7 million. And you see, when you put this in context, that's kind of what makes your stomach turn, man. Like, we're talking about paying him that much more than these other guys. That's just, I don't know, man. Doesn't make sense to me. Jonathan Grenard at $13.4 million with a 4-year contract. Zadarius Smith, $12.4 million.
Surprisingly low.
Yeah, for a 2-year, especially if you were signing him for a 2-year, like $25 million contract.
He's older, though. I'm surprised he's going to command that, you know, if the other guys age. I can't believe Clowney's only 30.
I know. It feels like that he's been in the league for 15 years.
He has. He was 15 when he came in, and he just looked like a giant man. All right. I think another was Danico Autry from the Texans. 5 technique defensive ends, splitting double teams, barreling through blocks, sheer power, sometimes utilizing a chop across the tackle's face is what they wrote. The wily veteran does a good job of using blockers' momentum. He's going to be 34. So that's older. You know, I was just trying to find some guys too that are reasonable that this team might actually be able to add. So next week we'll do linebacker, tight end, some different things. We'll talk about that. I think that's I did have 2 news items.
Is that the presentation?
Did you upload the new one? Yeah. Oh, we never mentioned the gold helmets, but it's okay. We won't go back. Maybe the Bucks looking at Michael Penix, because I think Arians is still involved in the front office, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's interesting. I mean, really important. You know, big season this past year. He could be a player in the NFL. I think everybody's gonna say he's older.
I like Michael Penix. I think he's a damn good quarterback. I mean, what would they do? Trade up? I don't know if he's necessarily. It's so hard to know because Penix is one of these dudes where they're going to tell you how old he is. They're going to tell you how many colleges he's played at.
He had, I think, 3 injuries. He had injuries, multiple injuries.
Yeah, he's had a lot of injuries. And, dude, once you actually look into it, he has one of the weirder throwing motions.
Yeah, it's odd.
Yeah, so when you mirror it and you look at it as if you were a right-handed quarterback, you really see how wild that throwing motion is.
Right.
It's like,
it just looked weird to begin because he's a lefty, and then it turns out it's actually odd. This was a crazy next. Look at this. I don't know how I ran across. How have we not heard? Have you heard this?
What?
This is who's that guy that the Eagles drafted that fell that killed the from Georgia. Was he from Georgia?
Georgia. Yeah, he was in Georgia. It was that the coach and the teammate that died in that car accident, and he fled the scene.
Cody, he's like the best defensive tackle in the league as a rookie.
Yeah, I know. His what was his name?
Eagles. Come on, we shouldn't have
but there was 2 of them. Remember they had the year before. So Jordan Davis was the guy that they hired.
Jordan Davis. Isn't this Jordan Davis that they're talking about?
Jordan, but there's another one. Hang on.
No, this is the rookie.
Oh no, it's not Jordan Davis. Yeah, it is. Who is it? Rookie
Carter.
Yeah, Carter. Jalen Carter. Does that sound right?
I think Jalen. No,
Jalen Carter.
Yeah. And so yeah, tell me what's going on here.
This Jonathan Feliciano, who is offensive lineman, I guess. He said, dude told me he was going to murder me and my kids would never see, was going to murder me and my kids would never see me again 3 times because I was laughing at him after getting a flag. I said, I believe you got a body. You already got a body, he told him. Oh, that's kind of. And then he said he then continued for weeks posting my fam and reaching out to my friends. So
he sounded like a bit of a problem child, man.
Angry. Yeah, I just thought
that'd be interesting if that continues. Certainly doesn't have a great track record at this point.
Yeah, except for good on the football field, right?
Yeah,
interesting. I mean, I guess you asked them to be. It's kind of like, remember when Mike Tyson? It's like, it's not surprising you can't cut this mess off at times. All right, that is the show. I think all we got is ice up picks to get out of here. Right.
That is Correctamundo, the longest running Panther segment and the longest running Panther podcast. Tony Dunn, it is time to ice some fools up.
Ice up, son. Ice up.
This is our homage to Steve Smith, where we tell someone to ice up, toughen up, get it together. Everyone is fair game. From 15-year-old kids in Oklahoma to even ourselves and each other on the panel. Cody, you got, what do you got? You ready?
I have 4.
Okay.
But the off fail is short, but
okay. I'll start then. All right. The first of my ice up my first of my ice up picks goes to this dude named Jamie Robertson, who is my sister-in-law's ex-boyfriend, who is turned out to be a crazy person, who then came over, who's like had a bunch of, they saw them out, my wife and her sister out this weekend, got kicked out of a bar, followed them all around.
What?
Came to my house in the middle of the night, vandalized her car.
No.
Oh, yeah. And then fucking popped 3 of my tires on my truck.
Dude, are you for real?
Yeah.
How did you not shoot that motherfucker?
Well, I didn't know it was that was happening at the moment, right?
Oh
and
God.
The other thing is while I got too much at stake in my life to
throw it all the way for some pussy.
For a small man. So ice up to that. And that's the first one. And then my other ice up pick is more in line with regular ice up picks on the show. Not a crazy kill one. This one just made me laugh. Guy found a tattoo on his newly adopted dog and decided to get the same tattoo, only to discover afterwards that it means been neutered. That one made me laugh. I also like this. This made me laugh. The King of Pup. And then just for fun, because you can see my bookmarks, I sent this to my boy. It said, this is Kristen at Kristen Kimmick 86. She said, boy, it's like a conversation. It said, boy, I wish girls like sports. Girl, I like sports. Boy, oh yeah, name the blood type of the Seahawks coach from the 1990s. Why this is funny, I sent it to my buddy. One night we were hanging out. We were at this bar, and I was wearing. I like to wear hats. I wear the flat bill hats. I had Pittsburgh, and I just match it. I usually wear baseball hats because I can't wear any football hats of other teams, right? So I may, match my shirt, my shoes, or whatever. Yeah. So I usually use baseball as my sport. Baseball and basketball are the sports that I use where I just base my hat selections mainly off of color coordination. Right. And so I have a Pittsburgh Pirates hat that I like. It's simple. It's clean, black, yellow P. This girl comes up, good looking girl too. She's like, oh man, I'm a big Pittsburgh, I'm a Pirates fan. And she was talking with us, and it was just me and my friend Bobby just standing there hanging out. And he goes, oh, really? He said, who plays third base for them? And I was like, Bobby, you could have had a fucking end, bro. Like, you could have hit on this girl.
Yeah.
And you were like so focused on, oh, really? Are you a
serious?
I was like, oh, so that made me laugh. All right, those are my ice up picks. Bobby, you get one.
All right, so my ice up picks is, bro, you know those clips where like the shorties at the strip clubs, they'll put their feet around a dude's neck and they'll just slam their ass up against their face.
Yeah.
Hey man, sometimes that can get a little bit too crazy. Peep homeboy's left arm.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, got a little bit too late episode, dog. Oh, that adrenaline's wearing off.
Oh, don't do it again. I can't watch it again.
Oh, yeah. So, there's that, man. Yeah, ice up, and when you're don't get booty cheeks slammed too hard on your face that you end up fucking around and dislocating
your elbow.
Yeah, your entire arm. All right, this one, keep your eyes on this dude right here at the bottom right. Dude, don't throw swords in the air. Oh, it stabbed him right in the calf.
Oh my gosh! What is
this thing called yard darts in like the 60s and the 70s, and it was just like, hey, throw these giant spears up, kids, and see how this goes.
Yeah, that was not fun. All right, should I go? You want to go funny next, or you want to go traumatic?
You pick. You're curating.
All right. We'll go traumatic, and we'll end on a high note.
Well, I got one too. So
okay. So I may have played this before too. I don't know, but dude, this is so gnarly, and it should be a lesson. Enough with the motorcycle stunts on the freeway, dude.
With a girl in the back. I saw one of these the other day that was very similar.
It's not even over. They're on fire.
Oh,
and he has to pull them out of the flames.
He's knocked out. He's unconscious and he's burning. He's unconscious, dude.
Yeah, dude. Just.
She took a head to that. Her head slammed into that sign too,
and then onto the pavement. They might all be dead, dude.
Oh yeah,
I saw one the other day where it was like a Mustang, like a race, like a sports car, and a motorcycle, and they went to race, kind of like they were on the highway, and it was like and they were big dick at each other.
Yeah,
and they go, and the car takes off, and that motorcycle goes. Woo! And he just he hit it so hard, he flipped over and just fucking destroyed his whole man. It was just like, oh God, you
shit. I got one more. And then CK can close this out. Ice up to this dude. It's bad when Burger King is flaming you viciously.
DM'd Burger King and said, I need to make a complaint. They said, hi, Terrence, what is the complaint? So I sent them a picture of one of their burgers and said, ain't no one eating this. Look at it. To which they replied with, look at you.
It's a big ass forehead.
So I said, nah, that's photoshopped. And then they sent it again, playing tic-tac-toe on my forehead and said, your turn. It's obviously edited. How do you even reply to this? I DM'd Burger King and said,
Just roasted the fuck out of
like
him,
Brad
dude.
Tillis DM'd Burger King. They haven't none of that shit.
No, dude. So
that actually looks exactly what a Burger King burger looks like all the time.
Oh yeah.
They should have just been like, "What's the problem?" That's the fucking Whopper, dude.
Then the fact that they just roasted him back, that's hilarious. But yeah, ice up to everyone involved.
Yeah. So I have one, and I may be late to the game. Many of you people might have seen this, but I'm going to share it anyway. So I'll just let it.
I love these where this is the courtroom ones.
Oh, this one's going to be funny.
Videos to my homeboys.
Her friends.
You don't believe me?
No.
You don't believe me?
No.
I don't believe him either.
I have a video. I brought it to you right
What
now.
video?
Oh, okay. Well, I'll see.
Right
What video? I want to see it.
Right. We're about to
Let's
see.
get it. Yeah. Yeah. Now it's. Yeah. Definitely.
Kimari!
See this right here.
What? Is that real?
Videos to my homeboys.
What?
You don't believe me?
No.
You don't believe me?
No.
I don't believe him either.
I have a video. I brought it.
So to clarify, he is saying that he's frustrated because she's been sending videos to his homeboys, and I'm guessing they were in a relationship or something, and so she wasn't expecting him to have the videos.
And then how it's like Napoleon Dynamite meets a big giant fat woman.
I don't just look at the planking one, dude. Like the planking part of this. Hold on. All right,
So
come
you're
on.
right.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll see.
Right
What video? I want to see it.
Right. We're about to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now it's. Yeah. Definitely.
Kimari!
See this right here makes me mad all over.
Just put it here.
Videos.
Oh man. Anyway, I just want to say ice up to her. Listen, let that be a lesson to everybody. Don't send out videos or pictures that you aren't prepared to have publicly provided.
She was
the
publicly
world.
prepared for that. She was just surprised that man, that almost feels staged.
It might be, but
that move where she went and did her legs up and jumped that jump. All right, ice up.
Ice up.
All right, that's the C3 Panthers podcast brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. My name's Tony Dunn. These are my co-hosts, Cody Lack, CK. We'll be here on Friday for the free-for-all. And as news develops around the Carolina Panthers and football, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And this Friday at 7 p.m., Friday free-for-all for you to join the show, for Panther fans and by Panther fans, be a part of the discussion. We've had more and more people that never come on the free-for-all that have been coming on.
Good.
Josh, who's always in the chat, he's made this free-for-all appearance, man. We've got more and more people choosing to be a part of C3 family, man. So come hang out, man. C3 is for everybody. All Panthers opinions are welcome here. And yeah, holla at your boy.
Take us out of here.
C3 Nation, until next time, keep pounding.
Enjoy all your favorite sports like never before at BetMGM. Sign up using code Hawkeye and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet. When you register with BetMGM, you'll get instant access to a variety of parlay selection features, live betting options, player props, and the best daily promotions in the business. And with BetMGM at your fingertips, every play and every game matters more than ever. Place your money line, prop, and parlay bets with the king of sportsbooks today. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly and offer resources to help you make appropriate choices. BetMGM.com for T's and C's. 21 plus to wager. Iowa only. New customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets. Bonus bets expire 7 days from issuance. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-BETS-OFF.
At Athletic Brewing Co., we know the big game's no time for a bad call, on or off the field. This year, you and your friends can make the best call of the night by bringing Athletic Brews to the party. Whether they're your pick for the night or the perfect fourth quarter audible, Athletic Brewing Co.'s great tasting, non-alcoholic brews can put a win without a hangover in the palm of everyone's hands. Head to athleticbrewing.com to find a store near you and stock up for Sunday.